flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, everyone. We got another action-packed agenda here today, so we'll move right into it. First up is the mobile station at 3480 North Road at Hudson Center. Welcome back, guys.
Hi, I'm Eric Rogi with Hudson Land Design.
Tom Kivett with CBD Group.
Right.
I'm just sharing my screen. Okay. All right. I want to go over a couple of the comments. We got the comments. There's a few in particular I just wanted to discuss with you. The first, there was a comment from AKRF about the the separation between the drive-through exit lane and the fuel pumps.
Right.
We've kind of gone back and forth ourselves a bit on curbing that with plants or striping it with bollards, and we were thinking about the viability of the plants, and we don't think they would survive in such a narrow little curbed, confined area. So we went back to the bollards and striped area.
Okay.
Though we switched to bollards that they can be driven over in an emergency. They're not metal bollards, so it'll still prevent people from driving over it, but emergency vehicles should be able to, they could plow right over them if they really needed to. We're hoping that would be sufficient, and we don't have to go back to the landscaped option.
They bend down, or is it a breakaway kind of thing?
I believe it has like a rod and it pops off, and then you can put it back in.
Similar to the what's on the bridge.
Okay, when they put the middle lane there.
Yeah, hopefully they don't break as much as the ones on the bridge.
They hopefully won't get driven over as much. All right, what else? Yeah.
Okay, the other thing, there was a comment from Duchess Planning about the crosswalk into the Main Plaza area.
Mm-hmm.
We placed it where the existing sidewalk and curb ramp are located, so we're just tying to it. I think that was a request early on, so we'd like to stick with that rather than moving it down to the intersection as requested by Duchess Planning, because that would require more sidewalk, changing ramps around, a lot more work that's outside the lease area. So we're hoping we can stick with this. I don't know if we have to follow all of the Duchess comments.
I think the staff, I don't remember, I remember thinking that our traffic consultant might address that, because
Right.
the county planning's comment had to do with traffic and pedestrian safety at that location.
Okay.
Their point, the Dutchess County noted that it's an unusual location for a crosswalk, and it would be unsafe north of the intersection, similar to many mid-block crossings. So I would ask that the traffic consultant to address that when you get there.
Okay, sounds good, thanks. See what his take on that is. And what else?
And the final one, there was a comment about some grading on one of the ADA ramps up here. We're going to fix that. That's no big deal. It's a very minor thing.
Yep.
And then the next item is the lighting. I know there's been some back and forth on the light levels under the canopy. I think Tom sent over some information that they usually follow for maximum light levels.
Yeah, so for given this area, I think the Zone 3 pertains to the light levels that I was reading off of, is more of a town center mixed use area. And there's different methods for calculating the light requirements or what's allowed underneath gas canopies, and they give allowances for fuel canopies of around 20-foot candles, which is what we have right now. So that's our original argument of keeping the existing light levels as they are is still remains.
Yep, I got a small light meter, and I measured 17.2 or something like that up there at night, so it's in that ballpark.
Okay.
We have, just to let you know, we also had an IES standard that we came across that was 12.5, and you had a standard of 20, so we'll see what the board feels as we discuss it. All right, Eric?
Sure. Let's see, overall, staff felt that if the board can address the remaining substantive issues, with this meeting, then we've provided resolutions towards a conditional approval. We do note that the county planning department, recommended no approval unless the lighting was, on the site was reduced, under the gas canopies to 5.0 foot candles. For the site, I don't have it right in front of me, but I think it was to 1.0 foot candles for an average. Requiring a supermajority of the board, which is 5 votes, to approve something that was that did not meet that standard. So the board can come up with a approval that did not meet that standard recommended by the county, but it would require a 5-vote majority. Let's see, there is also an alternate resolution to defer if the board has other thoughts, or if it feels that other comments need to come back to it for further review. So the lighting is certainly one issue. I guess the only other issue that's been discussed frequently by the board is the screening of the building. The board allowed the drive-through in front, which is at the board's discretion, is usually not considered for the street's frontage. But in this case, the board was willing to entertain it if there was sufficient screening. There's been a lot of discussion of that. Staff felt that, according to the board's last discussion, it appeared to be generally sufficient, but we did recommend that because the screening shown is at a mature height and the planting height of the trees proposed for screening is only 4 feet, substantially less than the 12 to 13 feet required for the screening, according to their sightline profile, that the board might wish to specify a larger planting height, perhaps 6 or 8 feet, to get to that screening height sooner. So we're suggesting the board provide some guidance on that, as well as on the lighting. There's also one error in the staff recommendation in number 2B, when we identified some alternatives. I'm sorry, not 2B, 3A, where we suggested 4 alternatives lighting scenarios. It was intended that not that all of those be addressed as conditions of approval, but they were sample standards for the board to consider. So the recommendation was that the board select one of those or devise its own to address the foot candles, and that wasn't clear in the recommendation as written. Then there's a number of other items there, but I think they can all be handled by conditions of approval if the board's in agreement.
All right, thank you, Eric. Anything left from engineering, Andy?
I have no comments on this one.
Okay, good. Moved along, they addressed that drain got addressed. I went through there in a storm the other day as I was passing by, and it seemed like it was working.
Yeah.
Good.
I think AKRF is also on the line for comments.
Yep, I was wondering who was on
Can you
for
release your
AKRF.
screen so that our
Unshare for a
consultant can
minute.
speak?
Yeah.
I see Alex is on.
Alex, okay. Alex, can you make your comments on the mobile?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. So, as outlined in our memo, we had 2 major comments at this. We had 2 outstanding comments at this point. One was regarding the area between the drive-through exit lane and the fuel pumps. We had just requested a pavement marking arrow just to indicate the traffic direction at that location, and that has been addressed in the most recent site plan submission. The other item was also regarding the delineation between the drive-through exit lane and the gas station pump area. Previously, that the site plan that we received had shown plantings and the concrete extension of the curb. But as this presented now, we see that that's now going to be pavement striping and bollards only. We're fine with that. AKRF is fine with that. And it was mentioned earlier that those would be breakaway bollards, which would address any concerns regarding snow plowing during the winter time. So for the purposes of our comment, we feel that's been addressed adequately.
Okay, thanks. And do you have any comments on the crosswalk location connection?
The only comment that we have at this point is, as was brought up earlier, the proximity to the adjacent intersection is a bit closer than normally we would recommend, just because turning vehicles coming from that intersection, they have a very short sight distance to actually detect pedestrians in that crosswalk. So that would be our only concern.
Okay. Moving it further up is the issue, because there's the location of the current curb cut is where they have it.
Alex, just out of curiosity, would you have a recommendation, but if, for a crosswalk location between this site and the rest of the plaza, where along that access road would be the preferred location? Would it be at the corner with the exit to Route 9 from the access road, or would it be directly where the crosswalk internal to the store is currently located, or somewhere else?
I would say I just would like to pull up the site plan quickly so I can actually see it. Unless if someone has it actually available to share the screen, that would be
Eric,
great.
do you have it?
Yep, working on it.
That way I can refer.
That's the overall site plan. You can see
Can you
the,
go to the sketch plan, the line drawing of the site plan? I think it's the next sheet.
Right.
Yeah, that one.
And you'd have to do something on
Yeah.
site.
Actually, it's further down.
Yeah.
Well, your options for a preferable location for that crosswalk are limited just due to the numerous amount of curb cuts along that stretch. I would say probably most preferable would be if you could scroll up slightly, please. Across from the actual building, just parallel to adjacent to the building. Let's see. Where there's a note in the parking lot, there's a loading zone note. I would say probably the crosswalk, if possible. Correct.
well, that's gonna
Right where it
require,
occurs.
that's gonna require 3 crosswalks then. We're gonna have to cross every
There's nothing
parking.
nothing on the other side at the moment there.
Right.
Yeah, and
Yeah, if
Alex,
you can
that's
go-
actually
can you
right
zoom in on the
before
aerial?
the driveway into Hudson Heritage too.
This is what,
Right, so we still have 2 curb cuts in
Yeah,
north.
there's
2 additional ones in north.
So on the
correct.
screen now, you can see the curb cut that is existing, the drop curb where the black car is.
You know, there is
Yeah.
a system in the internal, there to the Home Depot, that there's a walkway, a sidewalk, and a connection. So it almost seems like, as much as the current location isn't ideal, the other alternatives aren't great. And
Right,
this-
alternatively, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and this one seems to at
Alternative-
least connect to the system,
Right, alternatively, we can recommend additional signage, possibly striping for additional visibility accessories for the crosswalk itself, possibly reflectors.
Well,
I had asked about signage on that, and I don't see it.
just a thought, as proposed, they would need to install a short segment of sidewalk on their site along the parcel boundary.
correct.
Yeah.
what they're
What if they
planning.
constructed about the same amount of sidewalk on the east side of the access drive, and extended the existing sidewalk another 15 feet further north instead of on the west side, 15 feet south?
We'd have 2 crosswalks then. We'd have to put a crosswalk across this entrance, and then we'd have to turn and do a second one. So we'd be making people cross 2 different lanes of traffic instead of 1.
But they'd still have to cross 2 because they'd have to cross your site entry,
Yeah,
and you have to cross your site entry and then the access drive. In the alternative, they could cross the access drive and then another parking entry, which probably has less traffic than your gas pump entry.
I mean, and realistically, spending time on this site,
Whatever.
there's very few pedestrians that make that.
Yeah.
There's not very many people that are actually using that crosswalk or connecting. It's And
I
we
just-
have a lot of foot traffic from the other side of 9.
I just envision now, with your new business there.
With
that-
Dunkin' Donuts.
That you may have,
You will,
people
you'll,
park-
you'll
people
have
parking here
college
'cause
kids
not enough
wanting to
parking,
come
you'll-
over and walk over.
that too,
So-
but people parking in those spaces.
Yeah.
In the mall and crossing over, so maybe it make more sense to have it in that spot, as Eric was just saying.
So 2 crosswalks then, instead of 1.
So it's just painting. So you don't have to do anything on the other island there, or you don't need a crosswalk on your side. The same 2 crosswalks.
It's 2 crosswalks anyway.
So
You
you
have
don't-
1 crosswalk across your entry drive.
So you don't need
and
to-
one
Oh, you're
cross
saying
across the
eliminate-
access drive.
Eliminate across your entry drive and just
Yeah.
go, across to that, if you know what I mean.
Instead, you would have 1 crosswalk across the access
So it's
drive
more-
and then 1
so
crosswalk
in line with that
across
crosswalk
parking.
there, just go straight across.
Okay.
Across to there and then down.
Yeah, that's good.
That'd be far enough away from any intersections,
Yeah, I think that'll work. We can do that.
and that lines up more with the building where people are trying to get to.
Right.
And again, our recommendation would be any additional tools that could be implemented to increase the visibility of any new crosswalks would be highly recommended at this location,
Right?
just due to the numerous amount of curb cuts and traffic turning movements at that location.
Right? Thanks, Alex.
Sure.
All right,
So I guess maybe you could talk with AKRF about what the additional signage might be.
Sure.
and the things, I think we got a plan for where the crosswalk should be, and that, work on that with staff here as well. All right, it's on for a public hearing, so I move we open the public hearing.
Second.
Moved and seconded, called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Anyone on the call wish to comment on the mobile station? Can you unshare your screen just so we can check see if anyone is waving?
If you're on a phone, you can use *6 to unmute. Not seeing anybody.
Seeing none, I move we close the public hearing.
Second.
Moved and seconded, called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. All right, let's go around the board for comments. Keep in mind, we were talking about planting height across the walk location. I think we settled, and lighting. All right, Peter?
Looking at your planting schedule, all the plants here listed are deciduous. And our last discussion, we had included the inclusion of some evergreens like arborvitae.
Yep, there are a large amount of evergreens that surround the drive.
They're not a large amount. I mean, I went and looked at it yesterday. There are like
Oh,
3 or
the-
4 blue spruce
Oh, the existing, you mean?
existing.
Oh, okay, yes, yeah.
But what are your plans in terms of evergreen shading?
All the screening trees that screen the project from the surrounding roads, those are all evergreen to
They're
match.
not listed on the planting schedule.
They are TSs.
They're shown in the rendering, I guess.
But they're not on the planting schedule.
Okay, gotta make sure that.
Yeah, they are. They're thuja. They're listed under shrub. They're really a big shrub, small
I see
evergreen.
the shrubs, I see choke cherry.
It's the last one on the schedule.
It's the green giant. That sounds like an arborvitae.
Yeah, that's the
Okay.
those are the screening.
Okay.
They grow fast.
With regard to the lighting, there is a crosswalk going down the stairway to Route 9, and there are at least 5 lanes of traffic there. There are 2 forces at play with Dunkin' Donut, and they're powerful forces. One is caffeine, and the other is sugar. It's always been my experience that people drive irrationally. I mean, I don't drink coffee and I'm a low intake of sugar, but it always seemed to me that people driving in and out of Dunkin' Donuts their behavior is irrational. So I think I would favor, if we wanted to increase the lighting level, the number of foot candles, particularly in view of the fact that there is a crosswalk across the drive lane for the takeout, that it would make sense to increase the amount of illumination just for safety purposes. I think we just have to determine what that foot candle number reasonably should be.
Yep. All right. Ben, anything?
Everything I was gonna ask has been addressed, so I don't have anything else.
All right, Nicole?
Yeah, I think we've already hit it. I think that we want the lighting to be somewhere below 20, right? That's what we're thinking. But 5 is definitely too low for Dutchess County. And Peter, yeah, I think we should have them plant trees between 6 and 8 feet right off the bat.
Yeah, are we good with that? At least 6 feet?
Is that possible?
That's acceptable, I believe. I thought that's what the height was already.
We had 4 on there, another 2 foot.
We had 4, but I think we had a discussion at our last meeting that they should be at least 6 feet in height.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll
So
specify
if we could
6
do
to 8.
that.
Specify 6 then.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and was that it? I think that was pretty much it. Yeah, I don't have anything else.
Discussion. All right.
Yeah, and I'm also in agreement on the lighting, because now that you have basic 2 exit points from your site and the potential high traffic, the more light for people to see them, I think is better, so I like that.
I'm in agreement with everybody's comments on lighting and trees.
Yeah, I'll just throw in, I have a, I don't know how accurate it is, I have a small light meter, and I checked a couple of stations, and the ones that are overly bright are they're up in the 30s and 40s, that's no good. And the one that it's felt unsafe was 8 foot candles. It was just the old style incandescent lights and very, very dim. So I think the 5 that the county is recommending would feel unsafe in this area. It's not next to any residential homes. I did have one last question I saw something about the gate. You're putting this gate across and you were recommending it not be locked, and I thought somebody recommended it be locked. Is that the case? So we think it
That's
should.
the recommendation, is that the plans specify an unlocked gate, and the staff are recommending that it be locked with some mechanism acceptable to planning and the fire department. There's a variety of mechanisms out there for remote operation by trucks or interior personnel.
Okay, so you feel it should be locked, okay.
Well, otherwise, yeah. Well, because otherwise it could just stay open.
I mean, could this be similar to like a dumpster enclosure where it's latched instead of keyed? I mean, I guess our concern would be, if the driver can come out, we have a number of deliveries every day. If they can go out and just unlatch it for themselves without sitting and blocking that entrance in that area.
That would be fine.
We were planning on that, just to keep the thing from swinging into people and, causing
Would it be
havoc.
a self-closing?
I mean, there's a number of mechanisms out there that are manually operated to keep it closed like a dumpster enclosure would. I don't know.
Yeah, I can see not wanting to have the truck sit out there while he goes in and gets the key. He figures out how to get it unlocked, so.
Right.
Figure out some mechanism that way that it won't swing open in the wind, but it will still provide a barrier.
Yeah, I was just thinking like at the entrance to Vassar over here, there's a push button lift gate or something. Just so,
That's a little
just
more-
so it couldn't get,
little
because a
more
lot of trash
complicated.
trail gates get left open all the time.
Right.
And in this case, we don't want it to swing out into the access drive.
Right, yeah. Yeah, that needs to be avoided. Can work that out with Eric then. So I think we're good to go.
Okay.
But I think what we're saying for the lighting is, some spots on this are high. I don't know if you want to keep the exact same lighting you have, or put some new stuff in as you're recommending, but do we want to try to keep it to 20 foot candles there? Yep.
I move the planning board grant conditional amended special use permit approval and conditional amended site plan review approval, subject to the following. respond to the comments of the planning board and those received from town departments and agencies, and said responses to be reviewed by the planning board as to adequacy and completeness included up, but not limited to, the following 1 through 10.
And that, just 10 includes our comments tonight about the gate and the lights.
And the lighting.
And the trees. 6-foot trees. All right. Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. And next up is
Carl, just the planning department, the county planning will require an explanation of why. And so what I'm hearing, just to check, what I'm hearing from the board is that you feel that increased lighting at Route 9 would be safer than what is proposed, and that the maximum of 20-foot candles is sufficient for safety under the canopy.
You know, also
Yes.
keep in mind again that the crosswalk, you know, crosses through the drive-through.
And the drive-through also, okay.
yeah, we want to. Yeah, the level of 5 I think feels unsafe in that, especially in this area where it's not near residential. All right, architecture review is up next. Do you have that rendering again?
Yes.
So we did go to the zoning, the board this past, was it Monday? It was received favorably. We're removing a few of the signs on there. One squirrel sign on the south side of the building and then one sign on the west side of the building. They're gonna go back on to the November 12th meeting.
Right, well, that hasn't been decided yet, but that's what your counter proposal will be.
Correct.
So which sign are you removing? Is it, so what you're showing here is after the removal? Or?
That's the old design, so
Okay.
the squirrel on the front entrance, and then there's one sign
On the west,
on the west side.
on the drive-through,
Okay, the
by the
symbols.
window.
But if you'd like for me to speak about materials or.
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay, so the wood look on there is a fiber cement panel. Nichi-Ha, it's very heavy, very durable. It has a wood look, very realistic from the road. We use it in a lot of our stores as part of our branding. Everything else essentially, minus the new entry gable and the Duncan side, everything else remains the same brick that's there now. It's the architectural block. We will be using a paint to paint the frieze up there behind the Duncan signage. We have our signature green color as well. Other than that, the building is substantially the same as it is today. We will also be adding a new roof to it.
Oh, okay.
Or new shingles, not an entirely new.
Yeah, that's, what color?
It's heathered moss, I guess, from a GAF. It's a GAF product. It's the architectural 3-tab shingle. It's part of our branding package again, so we use that in a lot of our stores.
All right.
When you say new roof, that also includes the new peak or the new kind of portion of the roof which supports the canopy structure at the drive-through. Is that right?
Correct. Yep. So that
So
drive-through
that's a
area-
proposed
That is,
change.
yes.
It's not just the shingles, but it's also that.
Correct.
I guess you might call it a gable or.
Yeah, the overframe there that is shown best on the west elevation is we have to tie it back into the existing roof and just create a.
Okay, yep. See it sticking out, or these. All right, comments from people on architecture? Looks good?
Looks good.
I should mention the ZBA was still wanting to see, that they weren't convinced on the west elevation that the Duncan sign was going to be visible, or certainly when the trees grow up. So that's one of the things they're looking for, some photo simulations from the board, from the applicant. They, questioned, county questioned whether the architectural element should be there at all if it's just for a sign. And so that hasn't yet been decided, but certainly in terms of architecture, it's something the board could consider, whether that should be there.
Okay, that was my question, because should we even be voting on architecture if they still have to get through the ZBA?
Well, I guess I would suggest the board, there's two ways to go. Is one, if the board is concerned about that architecturally, then you can discuss it and direct the applicant accordingly. If you're concerned about it coordinating with the ZBA, you could just make your decision contingent on whatever the ZBA decides.
Yep.
That way it doesn't require them to come back.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I'm tending toward that. Anybody have any comments? Want them to come back, or?
I mean, the sign doesn't bother me. I mean, if you can't see it, I understand just from, like, to minimize signage, but if you can't see it from the road, then is it really
Do you even need it?
an issue? I mean, no, I mean, if for branding purposes, I'm sure Dunkin' Donuts would like to have it there, but I'm just saying, it's not visible from the road, so it's really not, you know, I don't have a problem with it, I guess, if you can't see it from the road, even
Yeah.
if it doesn't serve.
I mean, it'd be visible for a couple of years till.
Yeah,
trees
yeah,
go
that's a
up
good
little higher,
point,
but-
yep.
All right, I move we accept architecture as presented, but contingent on what the ZBA decides.
So just so I understand, so if the ZBA decides that that sign on the west elevation is not necessary or not something they can approve, then they would have to bring the height of that back down to the top of the,
Right.
I guess that's the brick or whatever that is over the.
Yep, that bump up goes away then.
Okay.
Okay, second.
Moved and seconded, called to question, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. So you don't have to come back again, you've been here a few times.
Thank you.
Good luck with the ZBA.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is Love Road Guardian Self-Storage.
Afternoon, everybody. I think it's still afternoon. Yeah.
Frank?
Frank Rettel, project manager for Love Road, and I think you know my sidekick, Christopher Lepine of LaBella.
Seen him around once or twice.
Good evening, everyone.
I'm happy to say we've been whittling away at many of the comments the town departments have been making, and we're hopeful that at the end of our presentation, we can close the public hearing and hope that the board would consider conditional final approval for the site plan and special use permit. At the outset, though, I do want to point out that at no time will any of our customers be served coffee or sugar.
I'm not coming.
I did get a comment memo from Carol, and I put up the landscaping plan. I brought an aerial print with me to further show what we had planned for trees and some clearing. I did want to address some of the comments Andy made. I'll let Chris deal with those. His first comment was documentation of compliance with the DEC management, site management plan and brownfield cleanup program must be provided prior to site plan approval.
So,
Chris, you want to address that?
yes, when this project received a environmental easement back in 2017 and the associated land contour change plan, there was a excavation work plan that was submitted and approved by the DEC, which requires any work to be performed in the future on this site in accordance with that excavation work plan. Upon completion of that work, the DEC will then concur that you're following a report from the overseer of the excavation. That all work in terms of ground intrusive activities was performed in accordance with the excavation work plan. So to get that approval before we get a building permit's difficult because it involves doing the actual excavation. So our thought process is making it a condition of getting the CO to give you the DEC sign off that all work was performed in accordance with the already approved work excavation plan for the site. That's the legal document that they're bound by for any work that they conduct on the site. So I think that might be a cleaner method of doing this, because I don't think you want them to do their excavation work first and then come back and get their site plans assigned.
That would also apply to the sub-slab depressurization system we have to put in.
Yeah.
That's gonna have to be installed in the building and inspected by the DEC, and I can't do that without a building permit.
And that's also inspected by the building department. So my thought process is maybe we make that a condition of the CO, rather than,
That works for me.
Okay.
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
and I think Andy's comments were just limited to the excavation, not the sub-slab system, which,
So you don't want to catch 22 here.
Yeah.
yeah, no, I mean,
That's exactly right.
Yeah, Andy's comments were legitimate. It's just that we just wanted to bring, it's 5 years ago from that work excavation plan. It's not like it's fresh in everybody's mind. So we just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention.
And we have made application to the Board of Health, right?
We have not made an application to the Board of Health yet, because we were going to until we determined, we went and did an exploration for where the actual pipe was out there. And that, part of that excavation, we had to notify the DEC and we had to have somebody overseeing it, PID meter. So we've got all our measurements now as to where that actual invert is, so that we can make the modification and submit it.
Do you anticipate any significant changes to the plan based on
No,
what
it's
you
more
found?
confirmation, difference in slope, but we still meet the minimum slope requirements.
Okay.
And with the recent, there's a comment about we did have some correspondence with the Department of Health, and we're making some modifications to the location of the meter pit.
The meter pit?
Yeah.
Okay.
I also think the planning department's received response from DOT that they didn't have any objection to the plan. The storm maintenance and access agreement, I've been in touch with Lisa Kolb, and I've supplied her with information that I think is sufficient where she can prepare the document that would be approved by the planning board. Lastly, I will get in touch with the highway superintendent. On the plan,
You're gonna have to turn that on, yep.
on the plan, we're proposing a snow storage area here and also all over here, because we own this land here. I'm not sure what the highway superintendent may want, because the road now is plowed by the town. I'm not sure where he may want any type of an easement. Maybe it's over here, I'm not sure, but I'll get in touch with the highway superintendent and see what he's looking for.
Yeah, that's my primary concern, is the operational, how he's gonna manage that snow functionally. I mean, the area across the street makes sense to me. I just, like you said, I'd like to have his input.
Oh, sure, absolutely, not a problem.
Yeah, it's just a big grass area there.
I also wanted to talk about landscaping. I brought an aerial photo in. This is Love Road. When you come up, we're gonna be building right in here. There are mature trees here, here, and around the corner. We didn't see any sense in disturbing those mature trees. There's some shrubs there and stuff underneath. We probably clean that out to make it look good. There is a gap over here on the left-hand side when you go up. Some scraggly shrub in here. We wanted to clean this out 50 feet from the road, have it all seeded, grass, and we're proposing planting Norway spruce here, 6 to 8 feet high, just to make it look nice coming up the road.
The other intent as we continue up the road is to continue the removal of the invasive species that have grown along that corridor as well, all the way up to the project site.
Okay, great. That's what wasn't clear, and that you're taking out everything, or
No,
or
the
not.
intent is
So
more of the,
intending to leave those trees
the
alone.
undergrowth and the invasive species is what we're looking at.
That's all we're gonna
clean out along that
remove.
corridor.
The mature trees we wanna leave.
Great.
Can I just
Carol.
comment on that? I just went over the site a few moments ago, and perhaps we could go over there. The bulk of what is out there, there's really not a lot of mature species on going around the bend to look into the site.
On the right-hand side?
On the, I guess that would be
As you're going up the left or the right?
it would be the north side of the berm. So as you're driving up there, past the cat haven.
That's on the left.
The cat condo?
Yeah, past the cat condos, after the entrance.
Yeah.
Most of that, what is there is invasive species. It's, you know, it's just a tremendous amount of
Looks
woody,
scrappy.
scrappy vegetation.
That's on the left-hand side.
But there's not a lot, really, there's probably a dozen in that area of mature trees. I think if you're gonna take everything out, you're still gonna need to plant something there. And for the most part, there's a few of them that are right in the fence, even growing into the fence, so I'm not sure how you're going to remove the fence without disturbing the tree or taking the tree out with the fence. But I think you're gonna need, if you take out all that shrubby vegetation, you're gonna need to plant some more in there.
Okay.
You want planting of trees or grass, are you suggesting, Carol?
That's up to the board. I just, you know, the commenters were going to, you know, take out all the shrubs. You're gonna be
Yeah.
taking out most
We
of it.
would like the idea of some street trees up the sides.
All right.
As you said, you're trying to leave, but
Well,
see
if
how.
correct me if I'm wrong, Carol, you're talking about coming in here. This is where the cat condo is, right here.
Right, from the entrance.
Right in here?
No, past the entrance. So go to the entrance,
Up here?
in that area. So from the entrance around the whole berm area.
Okay.
Huh.
That's the New York State DOT.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
that's,
their drainage easement.
yeah, there is a right of way there.
Yeah.
It comes off the road and then it slopes down
Yep.
and then it goes up considerably. And that's where the bulk of,
All right. And there's a lot of growth there, so it sounds like it can be addressed once you clean out what is junk. And,
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if it does look barren, when we start cleaning that stuff out, then we'll put some Norway spruce there too, to match what's gonna be on the left-hand side.
That sounds like a plan. All right, let's move forward. Do you have anything else to present with the changes?
That's it, yeah.
That's the
All right.
extent.
Kristen, get the department's input on this.
Thanks. So the application is back on for special use permit review, site plan review, floodplain development permit review, and architectural review. The applicant certainly did a good job of going through those comments that are sort of outstanding. Correct me if I'm wrong, Carol or Andy, but I think what's remaining could largely be taken care of with a conditional approval. Excuse me. So we'll get those notes on the plan or updated sheets accordingly. And staff has prepared a recommendation for the board. It's on for public hearing, so you would open the public hearing, adjourn the public, or close the public hearing, adopt a resolution to grant special use permit approval and conditional site plan approval, and then the board could conduct architectural review.
All right, thanks, Kristen. We go to Andy next. Anything further?
They've done a great job. They've pretty much covered all my comments at this point. I concur that I think everything that's left could be a condition of approval.
Great. And Carol, anything further than what we talked about already?
oh, yeah, and I think if we just met out.
We can walk the site
in the
with
field and
you.
walked it, we could hash out everything else.
Carol, I have a question for you. You had mentioned that they might need additional erosion protection surrounding the pond. Do you still think that that's something that needs to be done?
Depends on how much brush
Gets pulled out.
is going to be removed and
Okay.
on what side. I mean, there's a good possibility you'll leave the brush on the pond side of the berm. So you're just going to be removing from the berm toward the road.
Yes.
And if that's the case, then that wouldn't be necessary. Just the note on the plan, just as we're removing it.
Yeah, we would be
So-
happy to meet you meet you out there for a site visit and come to an agreement and
Right.
Yep.
relay that information to the board.
Depends if you want to go over like the south side of the berm or not. That's out there. Then we would need the erosion control matting if you went to the south side.
If it's,
Yeah.
yeah, it
just
depends on how much.
Yeah, I mean, you want to get the invasive stuff out. I
Yeah.
understand that.
You just don't
Which
want
is-
to
you gotta-
pull up
huge.
to the berm if it's still on the south side. That's
Right.
just going to continue
It'll
to,
just keep going, growing
you got to
again.
do the job right.
Yeah.
And the only other comment is you were saying about bringing to the everyone's attention, your contractors need to be painfully aware of the restrictions due to the SMP. I mean, I know they have the black plastic fence a couple of feet down,
Yes.
So that is just something that they need to be aware, make sure they've read whatever portions of the SMP pertain to that.
Absolutely correct.
So we don't wanna open up a can of worms there.
No,
Yeah,
good po- good
just so
point.
you're aware, prior to any excavation out there, they have to have a on-site field meeting to discuss the health and safety measures of the site and the contents of the work excavation plan, regardless of the nature of the excavation. Even when we did the simple boring out there, we had to go through that extent of work, and the DEC does come out for that as well.
Okay.
So
Yeah, they'll be out there.
there is a whole notification process, you can guarantee it.
And
Right.
Bella has to be there throughout most of the construction because they have to certify to the DEC that it's done according to the SMP.
Okay.
Wherever
And that
they're
includes the
working-
decommissioning of the wells as well?
Absolutely.
Yes, wherever they're working within the areas of concern that were previously identified, it has to have constant oversight.
Okay, Ed, thanks for clarifying that.
Once the work is done though, and they're going vertical, we don't have to be there for the vertical aspect of it, just for the earthwork.
Okay. At this point, I move we open the public hearing.
Second.
Moved and seconded, called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Anyone in the room or on the Zoom who wishes to comment on the Love Road application? Quick scroll through.
Yeah. Again, for those of you on the phone, it's *6 to unmute. Yeah.
Seeing none, I move we close the public hearing.
Second.
Moved and seconded, called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Go around the room. This time I'll start with Joe.
I have no comments. You guys have been before us a few times and everything looks like it's coming together.
Thank you.
Steve?
No additional comments.
Nicole?
No additional comments.
Ben?
No comments, I'm just glad to see that this property is being put to good use.
Yep.
It really needs it, it would really make.
It'll look nice when it's
the
done.
area.
Clean it up. Peter?
Just two things. Love Road is an unusually wide road. I don't know whether it was because of the terminal that was there and there was a lot of truck traffic and they needed the additional space. I don't know, but there is going to be a lot of snow that's going to be pushed. And a lot of it's going to be pushed in front of your building. So you'll want to make sure that our engineer and your engineer get together and make certain that there's adequate space there to get that for your benefit as well as the town's. That there's going to be enough room to maneuver in front of your building.
Good point.
The other thing is the trees, you know, you really have to be more, I think, make more of a commitment than just we'll see how it looks. You know, we'd like you to put something on a plan that says, you know, we're going to put like, even if it's only half a dozen, whatever it is, Norway spruce, you know, they're big, they're wide, you know, they cover a lot of space. But if you can put something on the plan, rather than just when you get into the field and say, gee, you know, maybe we need some trees there, you know, if you can do it in advance, so that we have it on the plan, so we know that you have a commitment there to do something. Because the chances are pretty good. You know, I was there a couple of days ago and walked around, and it is going to be pretty bare. I mean, for your own benefit. You know, it's unfortunate that in the front of the building on 44, there's really nothing you can do. You know, you're in a
Too tight.
abyss.
Yep.
Anyway, are you going to paint that wall, by the way? I mean, you know where all the graffiti is?
Oh, actually, yeah, we're gonna have to do something to that, take the graffiti off or something, yeah. I hadn't really thought about it, but we don't want the graffiti there either.
Yeah.
It looks kinda stupid.
That's it. Thanks.
Great, thanks, Peter. Yeah, I think it's all been said, that I like that idea, put a few trees on the plan and it can be modified in the field if necessary, based on.
The most faded ink is clearer than the sharpest memory.
I think once we do a site visit with Carol, we'll be able to pinpoint exactly where the trees are gonna be and we can submit that revised plan for the board to review.
Yeah,
Right, you had said that you're going to modify the narrative, the
Yes.
plans based on this meeting, so we'll just hold
The-
off for a little bit longer.
The current plans do show those spruce that,
Shows spruce on the
yeah,
outside.
on the
curve,
northern side.
But we're talking about.
Yeah, on the interior side,
on
the
the
south
interior-
side. where
Throw
it
some on the
wasn't
interior side too, just in case they're needed. All right. I think we're ready.
Move the planning board grant conditional special use permit approval and conditional site plan approval for Guardian Self-Storage, Love Road, subject to the following. Respond to the comments of the planning board and those received from town departments and agencies, and said response to be reviewed by the planning department as to adequacy and completeness, inclusive of, but not limited to, the following, 1 through 10.
And then 11, I don't see the planning board comments on here, so 11, I would add the trees, the tree comments we just did.
Do we want to, is there anything to modify about changing my comment to a condition of CO or?
Yes, and that other one, we'll do that as number 12, the,
Okay.
the,
So 11 trees and 12 condition of CO.
avoiding the issue with that.
That it?
Okay. Yep.
Second.
Moved and seconded, called to question, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
You were not opposed, motion passes 6-0. All right, architecture, can you show up
I
the
have up there,
renderings again?
this is the plan that we've submitted with all of our submissions. It's going to be an ephes material, using these earth tones. There is faux brick on the front of it. I think we've reviewed this in the past. We think it looks quite nice. We think it'll really look good from the road and really improve the property.
Comments on architecture from anyone? Does look good. As I said before, your renderings show that you fixed the DOT fence there, but unfortunately that probably won't come to pass.
Yeah, we don't know what the state's gonna do on that. We've been in touch with
Once,
them.
once you have a nice building there, maybe they'll be motivated to
We
do
hope
something.
so.
All right, I move we accept architecture as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded, called to question, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Good luck. Next up is vertical bridge, AM tower replacement on Tucker Drive. Deja vu.
Good evening, Alec Glad from the law firm of Cuddy and Fader. And on Zoom, we have Steve Nicely, who is Vertical Bridges Director of Development, as well as Mark Stennett, who is the Director of Broadcasting and Engineering for Vertical Bridge. So just to give you a brief update as to why we're back. As you know, we received an approval in September of 2021 for the replacement in kind of the existing 336 guide AM radio tower at the iHeart facility off of Tucker Drive. And what we were doing last year is we were replacing the guide tower with a 3-legged self-supporting lattice tower. And as you know, you granted a 180-day extension in September. But now Vertical Bridge is proposing a smaller 250-foot monopole as a replacement tower. And how that came about is Vertical Bridge had agreed voluntarily to comply with the DEC's Blandings Turtle seasonal cut restrictions, which began in April and actually just ended in October. But at the beginning of the year, we were still working through some building permit issues, and we ran up against the start of that no construction period. So Vertical Bridge kind of went back to the drawing board and to reevaluate just kind of some things with supply and cost, and settled on a smaller tower design, which is 80 feet shorter. So really nothing has changed since last year, except now the tower will be 80 feet shorter, and it will have a slimmer visual profile because now it's a monopole as opposed to a lattice tower. The equipment building at the base will remain unchanged, and there's no need now for us to move it at all like we had previously proposed to accommodate the legs of the tower. The AM frequency of the site is not changing. That would actually require FCC approval, which the applicant is not seeking. And there is a second guide tower on the site that's 158 feet tall, and we're not touching that either. So we do have some members of the team on to answer any questions. We have received the consultant comment memos, and we don't have any issues with any of the comments being made a condition of approval. And like I mentioned, we're just here seeking a site plan amendment.
All right, like the previous one that this does not require any new guide wires?
No, nope.
Okay.
So I can show you the rendering. So what this is the elevation from the drawing, and then also as part of our application packet, we did provide some simulations. So just for a comparison, I'll show you what you had approved in September. So this was the 336-foot self-supporting lattice tower that was approved last year, and this is now what we are seeking approval of, the shorter 250-foot monopole.
All right, thank you. Kristen, go to you for the department's take on this.
Okay, yeah, so this application's on for a public hearing this evening, seeker review, and aquatic resources permit review, amended site plan review, and architectural review. Staff comments on behalf of the planning department are relatively minor in nature and straightforward. Mostly just looking for some confirmation of changes to lighting, existing or proposed. Same goes for landscaping. I know from, excuse me, from a prior conversation earlier this week with some of the board members, there was a question about if this application would impact existing wetlands, as was previously discussed in the prior application. So I'm not sure if there's someone on the line who might be able to just clarify that. It might be short and sweet or not, but I'll let you have that discussion. For seeker purposes, this is a type 2 action. Staff has prepared a recommendation for a conditional approval this evening, depending on what the board hears during the public hearing, or there's an option to adjourn and defer action with comments. So with that, Carol Knapp also reviewed this project application, as did Andy Learn, and I think that's it.
All right, thank you, Kristen. Go to Andy first.
Sure, we really don't have too many comments. Curious about the foundation and how much additional disturbance will result beyond the diameter of the pole, and if that's been accounted for in the erosion sediment control plans.
I haven't seen the final tower drawings yet, so I'm not sure. I don't know if either of the members of Vertical Bridge who are on have anything to add, but we can get you that answer.
Okay. Yeah.
But I know definitely what I have on the screen right now is the drawing. The pink line is the wetland boundary, and will still be within that fence compound, so we're not proposing any direct disturbance to the wetland.
Yeah, so I guess, in addition to my foundation comments, how much will you be able to construct the tower? It fits within that existing enclosure. Do you need to go beyond that enclosure during construction, or can you stay out of it that way?
Yeah, no, the plan is to avoid all wetlands, and we do have a sheet, I'm not sure where it is, showing like the proposed temporary access road, which is here, which is designed to avoid having to encroach on any wetland.
Okay. Thank you.
Right. Thanks, Andy. And Carol, anything to add to that?
No, the plan is still there are no guy wires with this one?
Yep.
Okay, so the plan is still to go in and just hand cut the existing?
Yep, and leave the anchors in place.
Okay. Did we talk about the couple of pages that were missing?
I didn't mention it, but that's on our
There's a couple
comments.
pages missing in the drawings that we received, the erosion sediment control details. They were on previous submissions, but not in this one.
Yep.
So we need to see those. And my only comment was just to the silt fence be tied into the building in the back, just for extra protection there.
Okay.
In the front.
Okay, sounds like something conditional that we did. All right, great. Thanks, Carol. This time I move we open the public hearing.
Second.
Moved and seconded, called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Can you unshare your screen again, just to make sure we can see if anyone's wanting to make a comment?
And if you're on a phone, it's *6 to unmute.
room raising their hands, so at this point, I move we close the public hearing.
Second.
Moved and seconded, called to question, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Go around the board for comments. Start with Ben. Ben, do you have any comments on this?
No.
No. You might want to pull your mic down a little. Peter?
Just for the benefit of the public, we requested and received a letter from the applicant to the effect that there will be no change in the transmission.
Right.
With this new proposal.
Same frequency and transmit power.
Right. Yep.
Nicole?
No, I have no further comments.
Steve?
No further comments.
John?
No comments.
Right, I'm good with that too. I was curious what the pole diameter is. I imagine it tapers as it goes up.
So typically they're about 5 to 6 feet at the base, and then they taper up to about 18 inches at the top.
Okay. Right.
I move that the planning board determine that the proposal meets criteria for seeker type 2 action pursuant to seeker part 617.5C2, and no further environmental review is required.
Do I have a second?
Well, what about the letter Peter asked for?
It's
in there.
It's in
Provided.
there. It's already in there.
Second.
Moved and seconded, called to question, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
I move that the planning board grant conditional site plan approval subject to the following. Respond to comments of the planning board and those received from town departments and agencies, and said responses to be reviewed by the planning department as to adequacy and completeness, inclusive of but not limited to the following 1 through 12, also including the silt fencing comment by Carol Knapp.
Second.
Moved and seconded, called to question, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. All right, guys, architectural review, is there any, you showed the tower there, is there any changes to the buildings or?
Nope, the equipment building at the base now is staying exactly how it is.
All right, any comments from anyone on architecture? Did we do this?
I didn't.
Nope.
No, I didn't.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, I missed that one.
Yeah, you want me to go ahead and
Yeah,
do that
go
one
ahead and do
first?
that first.
Okay. I move the planning board grant conditional aquatic resource permit approval for vertical bridge AM tower replacement 20 Tucker Drive, subject to completing conditions of site plan approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded for aquatic resource permit. Called to question, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. And now the architecture again. Any comments from anyone?
No.
As to diameter, I move we accept architecture as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded, called to question, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Good to go again, and good luck with the project.
All right, thank you very much.
Next up is Wiltsey, lot 19.
Hello,
Hi, Amy.
how are you?
Good, good. Any comments on changes?
So the changes were, there was an addition of notes to the plans to comply with the requirement for connecting to the sewer. Hang on, let me share my screen. So there were notes put on regarding the tree clearing restriction and the timing for the sewer to be connected on line 19. And I think we went with 12 months from final approval from the board. There were modifications, just cleaning up of the proposed easements, like this driveway easement and utility easement, and the tree clearing sewer easement on 54, and modifications to the density calculations because 54 was not part of lot 19, so that was eliminated from the density calculation, and that also affected the steep slope reduction, because there were some steep slopes on lot 54.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Sure.
Eric?
Sure. This is a submittal for final subdivision and approval and a public hearing. The board previously granted preliminary approval in June, and in July, the ZBA granted a needed variance for one of the lots. So now the board is looking at final. There's really some miscellaneous notes here, nothing very significant. So we drafted a resolution for approval by the board. And I guess the only issue would be sewer tenancy, which is subject to the town board, which would be needed for the 4 lots. That's pretty much it.
All right, thank you. Andy? Final.
Yeah, so our list is pretty short at this point. Health department approval, some deed descriptions, easement agreements, and one minor detail that we're looking for. So it's not much left to do.
Yeah, they're tunneling the sewer underneath the tree there, so you don't
Yeah.
have to worry about that.
Disturbing the conservation area.
All right. Great. All right, at this point, I move we open the public hearing.
Second.
Moved and seconded, called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Anyone on the call wish to comment or in the room on this project? Seeing none, I move we close the public hearing.
Second.
Moved and seconded, called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0 again. And we'll go around the board for comment. Peter?
Just a sort of a related question for the town engineer. This is going to the 4th Ward?
I'm not positive. I'd have
It's
to
the 3rd ward.
Yeah.
3rd Ward. Okay, does that go into to the Arlington plant or the city plant?
Arlington.
Arlington?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Ben?
Nothing.
Nicole?
Nothing.
Steve?
Nothing.
And Joan?
I have no comments.
Yep, I mean, you've been here a few times, so we got through the preliminaries, so this is just the final on it, and I think we're good to go.
Okay. I move the planning board grant conditional final major subdivision approval for the application for Wiltsey Estates subdivision of lot number 19, revision to filed map 10510A, subject to the following conditions. Respond to comments of the planning board and those received from town departments and agencies, and said response to be reviewed by the planning department as to adequacy and completeness, inclusive of but not limited to the following 1 through 8.
Second.
Moved and seconded, called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you.
Right, good to go,
Bye.
Amy. Take care.
Bye.
All right, next up, Children's Home of Poughkeepsie is back. And in person, great.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kyle Bardwell from the LaBelle Associates, formerly the Chazen Companies. I'm here on behalf of tonight, the applicant, Children's Home of Poughkeepsie. I was previously in front of the board in 2021, where we received conditional approval for a temporary modular center located on the east portion of the site. We are back in front of the board tonight as Children's Home has revisited the application and is looking to put the temporary modular center on the western side of the site. We are proposing it in a flat parking lot where there would be limited disturbance just for utility hookups. Tonight, I understand we're here for a public hearing, so I wanted to open it up to the board and to the public if they had any comment. We've received comments recently from the planning department and engineer, and we are working actively to address those comments. So at this point, I wanted to open it up to the public or the board for any comments.
All right, thanks. Kristen?
Okay, I'm here.
Yep.
So the application is on for a public hearing this evening. Seeker review as an unlisted action subject to an uncoordinated review, site plan review, and architectural review. I think it's relatively straightforward. There are a number of comments from the planning department. I do think that they mostly could be just cleaning up the plan really and getting some more detail on there. If the board wanted to discuss, if they had concerns about parking adjacent to the building, there's no hardscape. We wanted some clarification there. And otherwise, there is a recommendation prepared for the board to open the public hearing, hear comment, potentially close it, adopt seeker, and adopt a conditional amended site plan approval, and go forward with architectural review. If not, the board also has the option to open, adjourn, and defer action this evening.
Yep. We'll see if things are all satisfied or not. Start with Andy.
So we have, a couple of questions specifically, mainly related to ADA access and how the site will comply. There's currently ADA spaces shown on the opposite side of the access road. Technically, ADA spaces should be as close as possible to a building. So they really should show some on the same side as the building that's proposed. And we're also looking for some information on the accessible route from the parking spaces to the building and how that will comply. That would mainly involve slope spot elevations, just to confirm that the slope is adequate and the surface is appropriate. Yep. We also had questions. There's a line shown around the building that looks like a curb, but we're not quite sure what that is. So we'd like to know a little more information about that. And then we also had some questions about the sewer line. I understand you met in the field with the sewer superintendent, so he's on board with it. I had questions about the tie-in in the road. I believe there's a water line there that you will need to cross in addition to an existing drain line. So just want a little more information and make sure that water line is shown so we can make sure that you get across with appropriate clearances.
Sounds like quite a few things.
A couple things. Yeah, we're also looking for some turning movement plans, but I don't think that's not a critical issue. I think that's about it for now.
Do you think there's too much to do conditional tonight, or?
I would like to see that water line, mostly, and the ADA spaces.
All right. There's still a few details to be worked out. Let's go for the public hearing. I move we open the public hearing.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Anyone on the call or in the room that wishes to comment on the children's home plan? Seeing none, I move we adjourn the public hearing to November 17th, 2022.
Second.
Moved and seconded, called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Motion passes 6-0. All right, go around the board for additional comments. Start with Joan this time.
Can the applicant speak to the comments of the fire district with their request for a sprinkler system? Is that something that you can comply with?
Sure. So we, on September 28th, we invited the fire department and the town sewer department out to the site just to look at where we were proposing the modular center and any aspects related to fire circulation and fire flow. The fire department was a little concerned on the proximity to a local fire hydrant on site and asked if we could either propose a hydrant nearby the modular center or an internal sprinkler system. Since that conversation, we've worked with the manufacturer of the modular to develop a sprinkler system. So this would be incorporated into the building plans that would get sent to the building department.
Great, thank you.
Good question. All right. Stephen?
No additional comments.
And Nicole?
Will there be any additional lighting?
So there are two small lights proposed at the entrance of the modular center, just above the doors.
Okay.
So I did see the comment about providing a cut sheet for these lights, which we can do in the next submittal.
Okay. And this is just a temporary structure. You stated that it's only for 39 months, that's it?
That's correct. So the plan is to put it onto this existing asphalt parking area. It would sit on pylons, so there'd be little disturbance. And at the end of the 39 months, the modular center would be removed, and we would restore the asphalt and existing pavement back to its existing conditions.
Okay.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Sure.
Ben?
Which option classroom are you using, 1 or 2?
I can follow up on exactly what the floor plan is for the internal.
Yeah, because 2 doesn't have any bathrooms. I hate to see little kids run out in the snow.
We do have bathrooms, which is why we'll be addressing Andy Learn's comments on the sewer hookups and such. So we are proposing the one with the bathrooms.
Okay.
Okay, option 1 then, I guess. Peter?
When you drive in on Children's Way, that you have the large parking lot there where this building apparently will be sited. Where is that, the existing parking? Because there must be 30 spaces there. It doesn't show on these plans where that parking is going to be shifted.
Sure. So there's no offset parking as it relates to removing the 34 spaces. Discussing with Children's Home, there's no issue with the removal of 34 spaces based on what their existing use is of parking on site.
Do we know that? Can we follow up on that to be certain?
I guess that was my question as well, is you're removing so much parking, is there any issue with that? And Kristen, I don't know if you have any comments on that relation to the code. But,
no, I'm actually going to just defer to Chrissy Granieri, our zoning administrator. She did flag it in her write-up, so it'll just be another further conversation with her, and we'll make sure that we have an updated parking schedule for you, and we'll go from there.
Great. We'll have that by the next meeting, probably.
It's
I think it's
a
probably
unique
something we should-
use, but we don't want to be over parked, but we want to make sure
Sure.
people aren't trying to park out on the street either.
I did see that there was a couple comments in the planning letter that we will respond on, adding descriptive and detail to the parking requirements.
My other question is, you have 6 classrooms. I'm guessing, based on the 5740 square feet, that each classroom would be about 800 square feet, more or less, once you subtract the hallway, the office, and the bathrooms. How many students are you anticipating to be occupying those 6 classrooms?
Sure, I would have to follow up on the exact number of students, but it's important to note that all of the students that will be using the temporary modular center are currently on site. And so the purpose of this modular center is to free up some cramming space that's currently being used on site.
Okay, but we'll still want to get a number to be sure, but not only about the capacity of the rooms themselves, but the sizing of the line, the sewer line.
Right, that's important.
So I think that the information is critical for us to move forward.
Sure, we can address that in the next.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Peter. And I just did want to comment that there may be some sidewalk work going on there next spring as well, from what I understand. So that has to be coordinated before you start digging sewer lines and such.
Is that going kind of along?
Yes.
Along Fulton,
Yeah, that's the county's going to be doing that.
One of the questions, do you know what the grade levels are? You know, is it like K through 12 or K through 6 or?
That's a good question as well. I'm not sure exactly what age group would be using the modular centers, and we can follow up with the number of kids and exactly what age groups.
Terrific.
Yeah, I mean, when we did the previous approval plan, you said it was, or teenage type.
Say it one more time.
You said it was teenagers last time.
Correctly, that's
but
the large percentage. I
don't
just want to
know,
make
still-
sure before I said that there's
Before,
nothing has
yeah,
changed.
come back, when you come back next time to give us an update.
K through 12. Yeah. So Chris behind me, my partner, just like the last presenter, said it was K through 12, which is
Okay, so it is including you all. All right. Thanks. We'll wait for your, I don't know if you'll be back for November, that's where we adjourned it, if you can get the submittals in time for that.
Sure.
Whatever the deadline is, but otherwise we'll see you month after.
Okay. I move the planning board defer action and direct the applicant to respond to comments of the planning board and those received from town departments and agencies, included but not limited to, what?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Included but not limited to the following 1 through 10, the comments of the planning board tonight.
Second.
Moved and seconded. to defer, call to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
All right, thank you, everyone.
We'll see you
Thank you.
soon and clean up the rest of the details.
Will do, Carl.
All right, we got a couple of adjournments to do. 8 Tucker Drive. I move we adjourn the public hearing to November 17th, 2022.
Second.
Moved and seconded, called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. All space self-storage expansion. I move we adjourn the public hearing to November 17th, 2022.
Second.
Moved and seconded, called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. At this time, I move we allow public comment on other agenda items on tonight's agenda. And please limit your comments to no more than 3 minutes.
Second.
Moved and seconded, called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0 again. And is there anyone that wishes to comment on remaining agenda items? Seeing no one in the room.
Anyone on Zoom?
Does not appear to be. So I move we resume the meeting.
Second.
Moved and seconded, called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Next up is the Peterson fill permit.
Good evening.
Hey, how's it going?
Joseph Berger, Berger Engineering for the applicant.
Kenneth Peterson, owner.
Okay. What's your plan? Weren't you in a few years ago with this, or is this different?
Oh, a long time ago, but it was for slightly different.
Okay. All right.
So the site over on Anderson Avenue is a former site of 3 residential houses. Remaining is 1 house there, which is unoccupied. And in order to try to use this property in the zone it's at, we feel we need to fill it to get it partially out of the floodplain so that we can do something within the future. So we're going for a fill permit to clean up the site and bring it to some level of ability to use the property and its simplicity of description.
Pretty straightforward then.
Yep. The
Great.
site does have a wetland on it, which we show, and a floodplain and a floodway.
Yep, the whole thing gets wet when it bad storms.
That's why we want to fill it.
All right. Eric?
Sure. Let's see. For a land contour permit application, we're recommending that the board declare its intent to be lead agency, and review and then defer, pending additional information. There's also potentially an aquatic resource permit and erosion sediment control permit for this application. There's quite a number of comments. We're asking the applicant to address some of the purposes of the land contour, in particular also because it's a proposal across 3 lots and the fill section as proposed, if it is intended to accommodate, something for all 3 lots, a single building would require variances. So although a land contour permit doesn't require a plan of development, it's important to know whether or not the fill that is proposed is appropriate for future development. Is it for 1 lot or for 3 lots or for what? And also to address information about the aquatic buffer with regard to the requirements of that chapter, and a number of other comments. The floodway, the fill is to less than the floodplain elevation, again, appropriateness for future development. So there's a number of comments. The Dutchess County Department of Planning also, they had no comment, but they did advise me that they wanted to make sure that that nothing about the fill would preclude a future sidewalk along Guinness Avenue. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, they're planning a sidewalk.
That's fine.
So.
Now, we've read all the comments and we plan on responding to all of them, so not to take your time tonight, but to answer this maybe two simple responses which could help you understand. My client wants to combine the 3 lots into one.
Okay.
So that solves that. The question I have tonight is in some towns that's done administratively with filing at the clerk's office, or do we amend this application for a subdivision, which is a reverse subdivision? So I'll reach out to planning tomorrow and we'll discuss that and
I
amend
believe the answer
anything we
can be
need
done
to.
through the assessor's office. But
That's what we did, okay, yes.
Are they all in identical ownership?
Yes.
Legally?
Yes, same person. The elevation is slightly under because what we're planning on doing is filling. If there's anything that would be constructed later, it would be built on top of it, so we're not digging out again. So if you add another 12 inches of subbase and then your foundation, you're now up to above the floodplain elevation. We're not planning on filling above, then anything which we don't know what it could be possible for based on what the zoning will allow, you're digging down again, which doesn't seem to be a proactive thing to do. So we're trying to come to an elevation that allows us to look at possibilities down the road.
Sounds good.
The house, should I mention?
That explains that.
The house is going to be demolished. I mean, that's part of the application. We all realize
There's
that's
quite a dilapidated house there. We want to, it's very unsightly.
So, but all the other comments, I've read them through. They're very detailed, and we appreciate all the comments and time, and we plan on responding to every single one thoroughly before our next submission.
Yep, that's mainly, we gotta do lead agency today.
Yep, that's
circulate it.
I think the engineer had some comments.
We'll go through there, yep. Andy?
So, yeah, so we, like Joe said, there's, I'm sure you've seen our comments,
Yes.
but we had questions. There is a floodway, the entire site is in the floodplain. Want some more detail on how the actual floodway boundary was established to make sure we're staying out of that. The wetlands, they have wetlands. We probably want them to work with Carol to verify those wetland boundaries or reflag them. There is a town sewer easement on the northern boundary of the site. We want to make sure that access to the rear of the site is maintained through that easement. So we just want to look at that grading.
Yeah, we worked with Franco on that already.
Yep. And then we have some comments about erosion sediment control to protect the stream in the back, and some notes specifically about the fill material that's brought in to make sure it's appropriate for future construction. So,
all right. Thanks, Sandy. And Carol, anything further to add at this time?
With regard to the fill material, there is some material out there already.
Yeah, we'll remove it.
What's that?
We'll take care of that.
Okay, yeah, some of it may not be appropriate.
Understood.
It would be a good idea to have that redelineated because it's rather old, but this is one situation where you're not gonna be able to get there. It is heavily vegetated with invasive grape and.
Yeah, it was last time.
Yeah, so.
I walked it with Jim, so.
It might be easiest to do this in spring, early spring, when you can actually access most of the site.
We're used to that.
And the timing of the project, just because of the location of landing terminals within the short distance, so.
Yeah, we work within those time periods, yes.
Great, thanks, Carol. And whatever else whatever you plan to build there, eventually you gotta keep the wetlands and everything and the floodway in mind as well. All right, go around the board for comments. Nicole, start with you.
I don't know that I have anything to add. That's pretty much already been said, so no, I don't have anything to add.
Steve?
No additional comment.
Joe?
No, I have nothing at this time.
Ben?
Just, what do you have any idea yet what you're gonna put on that plan?
No, not at the current time. Just knowing that we have to clean the site up and make it look more presentable before some options could come through as mentioned at work. So there's no ideas in there other than the site as is right now is non-developable.
Right.
I mean, it's currently.
I drive by every day.
Yeah, exactly. So we want to do something so it does become a possibility to do something, including cleaning up, demolishing, making it look presentable to some
Currently residential.
future.
Residential currently, but it's in the Small Point Center District, so.
Yeah, it's in this district. We want to use whatever's allowed.
All right.
Present the site properly so options become available.
We are in the new created district.
Yes.
Yep. Peter?
Just a couple of things. One, The existing house, is there an underground oil tank in that house?
No.
What about the other two houses that were demolished? Were there underground oil tanks with
No.
those? No? I noticed I walked on the site the other day, there is a lot of like C&D material laying on the road, or on the surface.
Yeah, that would be removed.
Yeah.
They'll take care of
I
that.
find it was also interesting that there are no trees growing there.
It's a bad soil.
Usually, generally, it's hard to not find at least a few maple trees
Yeah.
growing because they'll grow anywhere.
Yeah.
But the soil seemed very, very compact.
It is compacted soil.
Just an observation. Going down a checklist here, in the EAF, you've got, under the potential contamination history, has there been a reported spill here? And you've had checked off yes. Now, I know the EAF mapper, casts a wide
That's what,
net.
it came from the EAF mapper. We don't know of any. I went and looked on the site, so it must be nearby. But that came.
Could have been the old Fargo
It
site.
could, most likely, the only one that I found when I went and did my own personal search was Fargo.
Okay.
But that's, when you do the EAF mapper, that comes on automatically, so you leave it there. And again, I did my own
Like
search.
I said, it casts a wide net.
Yeah, it's very wide, and the only one I found in the area, including, up the hill, was Fargo.
There's a question here, what is the average depth to bedrock? And you've got here 5 to 7 feet.
That's from the Dutchess County soil.
So that's from their map?
Yeah.
But have you dug any test holes at
No,
all
not yet.
on the site?
We don't plan on digging down, we're planning on filling, so.
I was just wondering.
Yep.
That's it for me.
Sounds good. Only further question that wasn't answered was, how many trucks or how much truck traffic is going to be?
Oh, we have
on that?
3,500 cubic yards, so
It's,
300 trucks.
like over what kind of time span?
Probably a couple months.
Okay.
And you'll pay attention to keeping the road.
Absolutely.
clean.
That would be part of the permit as required, and there'll be inspections and there'll be documentations on it. And there'll be requirement to sweep up after each day.
Yep.
And that area gets traveled quite a lot by, other people, including me, so it'll be watched.
Yeah.
You know if there are any, in the existing house, if there are any hazardous materials like asbestos or, have you done a survey of that, an inspection of that?
That would be part of the demo plan when we do it, and then it'll have to be taken care of.
Would you consider having, sometimes the fire departments like to use an old house for some training before the demo? I don't know if you-
Yeah, why not? When I did take down the other houses, I had to have the abatement report.
Yeah, you have to have that head down, but.
Yeah, for the building
We'll look
department.
into that and see if
Just
it's
saying,
feasible.
yeah, if
I
there-
agree, it may be something to look into if the fire department's interested.
Yep, I mean, they tend to look for old buildings like that that are
Yeah.
about to be demolished.
Absolutely.
Just do some smoke.
I mean, certainly-
Some smoke tests and have their guys.
It's
train
certainly
through it.
something we'll look into.
So appreciate it, unless it's so dilapidated that they shouldn't be going in, but
Well,
depends on.
It's pretty bad.
Our master plan for the site is a major improvement over what's there now.
Well, whatever, yeah, we'll open the door at that time.
I don't know anybody that's been around the town as long as I have it. I don't know if they remember what was the other houses that were there. They were quite dilapidated.
Yeah.
The one
Almost
that's
fell
there
down
is
on their
not
own.
in such great shape either.
No,
No,
this
this
one
one's
is
bad.
They were all built in the same era, I guess.
Yeah, sure.
In the late 20s, I think, in and around that time.
Not, yeah,
Old houses.
Once it's not occupied, it starts. to
No,
kick.
this not.
Not 2020, 1920, right?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
To clarify that these days. All right, it's always good to see improvements, so.
Thank you.
I move the planning board declare its intent to be lead agency to coordinate the environmental review of the proposed project as an unlisted action and authorize the planning department's circulation of a notice of said intent, a copy of the EAF, and a copy of the application to all involved agencies and identified interest agencies.
Second.
Moved and seconded for lead agency. Call to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
I move the planning board defer further action on this application pending establishment of lead agency and direct the applicant to respond to comments in writing of the planning board and those received from town departments and agencies included but not limited to the following 1 through 13.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Call to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. All right. good
Thank
to
you
go
very
for
much
now.
for your time.
Thank you.
Thank
See you
you.
next time, Joe. Next up is 1984 South Road. Another earth moving operation. Who's on in the room here? Okay, great.
Good evening. I'm Janet Tallman. I'm from the JMT, the engineering firm that has been tasked with getting this through the permit approval process. I am serving as the technical lead. Alexandra Carroll, who is our project manager, and she is online right now.
Okay, I see that.
I took over technical lead actually 2 weeks ago, so please be gentle with me. Let's see, we received a comment letter from you on Monday, and we have prepared something to address all of those, and that submittal will be submitted by noon on next Monday.
Sounds good.
Do I need to go over the project for you at all?
Just a
or-
brief summary
Okay.
of what you're doing.
My understanding is the original natural site on this property had a ravine in it. About 40 years ago, give or take, somebody dumped a whole lot of construction debris into that ravine. Depths, more than 10 feet. In fact, more than, I think, 13 feet. There have been many attempts. I think you probably have seen some of them over the last 20 years to develop or create development plans for this property. At this point, it has been ordered by the court that we remove all of the construction debris that is in that ravine, sort it on site for that which is can be processed, clean concrete, that kind of thing, crushed and replaced to the ravine, and anything that cannot be needs to be taken off site for disposal properly.
Get the bad stuff out. Okay.
Basically, yes. So I think the expectation of the court is that this gets done during this construction season. And not having ever brought anything to this planning board, I have no idea how realistic that is. So.
Well, it's pretty straightforward. We have to circulate for the lead agency, and then
Yep.
as you said, you have submittal all lined up, so that sounds good. Go to Eric for.
Sure. Let's see, it's a land contour permit application. We're recommending a declaration of lead agency intent and deferral. We don't have too many comments about this application, a few minor items. We did add some suggested notes which are typical to site plans, but it's just to get a site meeting, pre-con meeting on the site and as-bills for when it's done, since they're not always part of the land contour application. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward.
Great, thanks. Go to Andy.
Sure. So I'll say this was a very well put together, thorough application. It's very well received. Just the comments that we have, working hours, that have to comply with town code. We're looking for a truck turning plan to make sure that the vehicles that are coming in to remove the material can get in the site and stay on the site and don't need to either cross onto the adjacent property or God forbid back out onto Route 9 to get out. And then we have some additional notes kind of clarifying the type of material that we're looking for that would be able to be acceptably used to backfill. And the site is exceeding 1 acre, so it does require a speedies permit. A SWIP was prepared. And we just have, as far as the post-development runoff, we're just looking for a little more information, a little more detail on why the applicant feels that there won't be any increase in discharge after the project is complete. That's it, right?
And I worked on that this morning, so.
Good. All right, thanks, Andy. We'll go around the board for comments on this also. Peter?
I think you did a great job. Everything's spelled out.
Ben?
No comments.
Nicole?
No comment.
Steve?
No comment.
And Joan?
How long do you expect the project to take once you get started?
I believe the contractor who has been selected for this estimated about 8 weeks.
And is there anything that's gonna be done to the building that's on the site?
Not as part of anything that we're doing under the court order.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I imagine some of that might be when I remember when they widened Route 9 there.
Yeah.
Twice, actually. They went from 1 to 2 and then 2 to 3 pretty quickly. All right.
Carl, Aspen also did a review.
Oh. Yeah, I forgot that.
I'm fine with this. I mean, this was a very detailed report. It starts out saying, based on regulatory guidance, professional knowledge, and site-specific data from 17 years. They really covered everything, including the unanticipated findings and how to deal with that. So basically, as long as the town is kept apprised of any of those unanticipated findings, and maybe some inspections, but it's very, very well done.
Okay, great.
You got off easy.
I do have one question. The EAF checked off that there's a state agency approval involved, and it would be helpful if you know what it is to know that for the pending circulation.
I'm going to ask for Alex to chime in here because she prepared the EAF.
Yes, that is actually with regards in reference to the Speedy's construction journal permit.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sounds good. All right. It sounds like you had everything prepared well in advance, so that's great.
I hate to take all the credit because my predecessor, Paul Adele, he wrote the work plan, I wrote the SWIP, and so he really knows his stuff.
Great. Great.
I must say, we've never gotten a land contour permit application this complete from the outset that I can recall.
Yeah, we always had some back and forth, so this is good.
I move the planning board declare its intent to be lead agency to coordinate the environmental review of the proposed project as an unlisted action and authorize the planning department circulation of a notice of a said intent, a copy of the EAF, and a copy of the application to all involved agencies and identified interest agencies.
Second.
Moved and seconded for lead agency. Call to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
I move the planning board defer action on this application pending establishment of lead agency and direct the applicant to respond to comments in the writing of the planning board and those received from town departments and agencies included but not limited to the following 1 through 12.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Call to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0 again. And you're good to go for now, and we'll see you next time. Next up is 824 to 826 Main Street.
Hello, how are you?
Hey, John, when you walked in, I checked my agenda for Meredith.
No, I don't exclusively work for them. Good evening, all. My name is John Andrews. I'm with the firm of Rohde, Soika and Andrews, located in Poughkeepsie, New York, and I am a New York State licensed professional engineer. With me this evening is Dan Patrizzo, who is the owner of the subject property. You may recall what we are looking to do is redevelop the existing structure and site at 824, 826 Main. We have advanced the drawings. We've kind of modified things, and if I may, as a consequence of the architecture, we've introduced a new element to the project. What we are proposing to do is do a lot line adjustment. Mr. Patrizzo also has an interest in the property at 531 Haight Avenue on the arterial side. We're proposing to obtain a 5-foot by 50-foot swath of property. That gives me about 5.5 feet clearance at this end of the building and about 6 foot of clearance at the other end of the building. The architect deemed that necessary because there's an egress door that's going to go on the back of this building. So to make the building functional, as with our 3 apartments, we need that egress door. Thus, we introduced the lot line realignment. Thankfully, we were able to do that, and we don't need to shorten the building or play any games with the building. Having said that, our proposal is still the same. I think you're all familiar with the site. It's the old Spectrum printing building. It's that interesting looking dull white gray building that kind of sits on Main Street that's been vacant for a while. Our proposal is to put 2 commercial retail storefronts fronting on Main Street. In the back, to add 3 apartments, 2 bedroom and 1 bedroom. Since the last meeting, we met with the water department. We finally figured out the water system. The existing water comes into the building on the kind of west end of the site. There's an underground connection between the 2 buildings. There's 1 meter. What we're proposing to do is provide a new water service, and we're going to kind of reverse things. We're going to come into the building that we're renovating, because we're adding apartments and other things, and then we're going to disconnect the existing service, relocate the meter, and run the water back the other way. We met with the sewer department. He doesn't know where the sewer connection is, but he confirms the actual sewer line is about 3 foot off the face of our building running in the sidewalk. So Andy has asked, we're going to make our best guess stab at where that is. It may be subject to change once we go forward, but I think we'll get a handle on that. There were some issues regarding what are we going to do for parking. We have been able to include 9 parking spaces, 8 standard spaces, 1 handicap. We were also able, with some creative shoehorning, to get a 4 cubic yard dumpster refuse enclosure in the back. And it leaves us a little area. We've kind of identified it as a landscaping area. To be honest with you, my preference would be to make it grass, maybe put a bench in there and use that during the summer as a bit of a green space, but for the rest of the time, it also gives me a spot in a rather tight alleyway to put some snow storage. So the other thing is, for egress, we've got that 5-foot section back here. If you were to go out there today, there's kind of like, as you know, my client owns the building next door, there's kind of like an herb garden along the back of the building. He proposes to maintain that and probably expand it. I've got to get some clarification, but egress would be out that rear door here, and there will be probably a raised bed herb garden along the back to clean that up. There are 3 apartments. Those are the entry doors. Those would probably be asphalt and striped. We're not proposing any real grade changes out there. We did get comments from everyone, and we've read through them. Most of them, I will take my responsibility. We probably could have buffed this submittal a little better and had less from Andy, and perhaps from Kristen, but we will take care of that on the next go-around. We were originally scheduled, Kristen had allowed us to proceed to a public hearing, but because of a little foul up at the Journal, we never made it. So we're not here for a public hearing tonight. We're here for a review. But what it has enabled us to do, with some guidance from Mike and Chrissy Graneri, we're going to make application to the ZBA. We need 2 variances to make this project work. 1 variance is a residential density variance. In the Arlington Town Center, you are allowed 6 units per acre. We roughly have a 1/4 acre. So we're roughly allowed 1.6, but let's say 2 units. So we need, and we're short about 30,000 square feet. So it's a big variance, but we think it makes sense. And we also need a variance for parking. This is a mixed use. Under your code, parking requires that you accommodate for all the uses. We are able to accommodate the necessary parking spaces for residential, which is 1.5 times the residential units. The existing building has 3, actually, 2 on the 2nd floor and 1 on a 3rd or attic floor. So we have the 9 spaces here. We don't have any for the commercial application. You can, of course, waive them, but to be conservative, we're going to apply for a variance of the parking. I mean, we've maxed out the site. As you all know, the building basically runs almost the entire length of the property there. The other building is shortened in the front, and we've kind of done the best we can there. But we are in the process, and we have clarified with your zoning administrator what those variances are, and we are in the process of seeking them, hopefully to be on for November, which would bring us back to you in December, hopefully with all the i's dotted and t's crossed. That's where we are, sir.
Sounds like a plan. All right, thanks, John. Kristen?
Okay, so thanks, John. Did a very thorough job of reviewing the application. So just to reiterate, it's on for secret review this evening, discussion for lot line revision review, special use permit review, site plan review, and architectural review. Most of my notes actually just outline code section for the lot line revision component that's now a part of the application. Documents the code reference to special use permit. I don't want to beat a dead horse here, so John will appear before the ZBA. It actually makes sense to go in that order because if the density is not granted by the ZBA at the application as proposed is off the table, they have to go back to the drawing board, so we don't want to get too far along in the review process. So then my comments are fairly straightforward, cleaning up the plan set, getting some clarification about a couple of items. And again, I would just like to reiterate from a planning perspective along Main Street, when we've had similar projects to this come in, we have historically, the planning board has historically granted approval to parking as long as it appeals the residential component of the parking requirement. And so that is what the applicant is proposing at this time and looks to be adhering to. So with that, I'd probably just reiterate that it was supposed to be on for a public hearing. Unfortunately, that didn't come to fruition this evening, but we can discuss the application and the changes that were made with the board and between the applicant and the board, and then defer action.
All right, thanks, Kristen. Andy?
Sure. So John already talked a little bit about the service connections for sewer and water. I'm glad you had a conversation with the water department in particular. I guess I would like to make sure, maybe there's a conversation that needs to be had with the building department to make sure that it's not a problem for the service to come into the building and then go back out again to the other building. I just want to make sure there's no building code issues with that or need for an additional backflow prevention or anything like that in the other building.
Okay, I can do that. But that is the way it exists today. And according to your water department and the way your town code is worded, you are only allowed one service connection per property.
Yeah. That's right.
And this is not an unusual situation. So if we do have to put a backflow prevention device in with our new service, we don't perceive that to be a problem.
Okay. All right.
But I will have the conversation with the building department.
Please, thank you. And then I think you touched on pretty much everything else. I do want to make a note that the access route that you're showing along the south end of the building, based on some aerial photos and kind of driving by, kind of peeking back there, I have seen vehicles parked right up against the back of the building or close to it. I just want to make sure that can remain clear if we need to put any kind of a barrier there.
Well, the thing is that's my construction trailer and where I park when I work.
Okay.
Obviously, there's a little rough patch of grass right there, so I plan to do like a little, stackable paver thing and have an herb garden to grow basil and whatnot for the pizzeria. So to be nice and clear, it'll be, basil turns so fast, I might as well grow it. So, so basically, I would remove the trailer. That little grass area is probably 2 to 3 feet, so I would saw cut and make a nice clean line, probably 4 feet out from the building, 3 feet of dirt, 1 feet of wall. And if I have to zebra stripe it, I will, but that little 1 foot, but I don't think anyone's gonna park there.
So I'm not quite following. Is the planting area up against the building, or is it?
There's a little grass. You want to explain?
If I may, Andy, on the site plan, you'll see there is a 2-foot up along the base of the wall of the building right now that serves as the planting area. Mr. Petruso would like to widen that. We had showed that area as hatched, as a no parking area, because the egress door is on this extreme corner.
Yeah.
I just need to clarify with the architect his intent for egress, but we intend to kind of make sure that area doesn't get parked on, either by the garden or by striping.
Yeah.
And if we needed to put like a bollard
Hey,
protection
I
or something like that.
can't hear anything because it's not using the mic.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
Let me repeat that.
we hear you.
No, my fault, and I apologize. There is an existing 2-foot swath there. He would like to widen that. I just need to clarify with the architect which way his egress works. And it is striped, shown as striped. We would continue the striping, and if we needed to, we would put up bollards to make sure it's protected and nobody parks tight
On
to the
the
building.
south side.
On the south
Yeah.
side, that is correct.
Right, okay, that makes sense.
Great, thank you.
All right.
That's it.
Thanks, Andy. Yeah, it's good to see some buildings be reused.
Thank you.
Come back into, it's great. So let's go around the board for comments. Nicole? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you have to get some variances. That little piece of property that you're talking about by the refuse enclosure, I understand what you want to do, that you want to put a little bit of landscaping or lawn there and put a bench, but I don't see anyone wanting to sit next to a garbage.
I don't agree with,
I don't disagree with
want
you,
a
but
bench either,
it's the only
but
place I could find someplace to put some green on the site.
Yeah, I understand, but we're talking about the city of Poughkeepsie. I mean, it's
no bench. is
no
fine.
bench,
Yeah,
and you,
scratch the
I mean,
bench.
if you want to grass it, but I mean, if it's already pavement, I would just leave it. Yeah.
Thank you. I think that's good.
Yeah. So, that's it.
Yeah, snow storage is a good.
I'll
good
stripe
for
it as snow storage, then that's fine with me.
That's, that sounds
Okay.
like a good use.
Yeah.
I had the same comment, Nicole. That's good.
I know you're taking it to the zoning board, but on the parking, where do you see on the retail side employees and customers parking who come to those facilities?
Well, customers all day long, on the Planet Wing side, they come, they park in front, they leave. So it's, people do utilize the 2-hour parking on the streets. And employees, they could probably park during work hours, but I think we're proposing, night for apartments and, a shared thing during the day, correct?
This would be, I can't say it's ideal, but it's residential coupled with commercial, so usually there's a off-schedule parking. In other words, commercials typically during the day, residential is typically after hours. Interestingly enough, he has tenants in the other building, and I'm hesitant to say this, but none of them have cars at this point in time. There is no parking. So one of the things that you find in a city place like this that is right on available public transportation routes, you do get people without vehicles. So what we were kind of visualizing was a shared parking, or kind of like a shared, during the day, somebody could park there, and at night they would be filled in with the tenants.
No other comments?
Yeah, the main thing, you're required to have the parking for the winter time in Poughkeepsie for the tenants, so
Yeah.
off the street.
Ultimately, their tenants wouldn't be happy if they don't have somewhere to come home and park, I would assume, if they do have a vehicle. So that is usually left to the landlord to manage. I also don't want to speak out of turn, but I know, especially now that we're looking at our zoning, I think that there might be some conversation happening, maybe not tomorrow, but in hopefully the near future, about our parking standards in the town, especially in this area. So.
Yeah, it's been discussed as part of our new master plan that we have to get into that in this whole Arlington area. Anything, Joan?
No, I guess I don't have anything at this time. Thank you.
Ben?
Just that you got a lot to do. I hope it works.
Thank
Good
you.
use of that space, but
Yep.
good luck with it.
Thank you.
And Peter?
We love adaptive reuse.
Yep.
What was that?
We love adaptive reuse.
Thank you.
Have been in that building many, many times. They did, when they were a printing business, and they did a lot of work for me over the years.
Mhm.
And I know the condition of that building. and I know it's gonna be a challenge. But when I look at what you did with the restaurant, I have every confidence that if you decide to go forward and tackle this, that you'll do a terrific job.
Thank you.
My other comment is that this is the Arlington Town Center. You know, parking is a big question mark. And we continue to write parking checks with no spaces in the bank. And that's something we're gonna, well, you're gonna go to the CBA and they're gonna take a look at that. Ultimately, we'll have to take a look at it, but it's a big question mark.
I mean,
as
I
you know.
understand.
And one thing thought that popped into my mind, it can't be considered, is the, you have access parking at the restaurant there, so.
I have plenty of parking.
So that could be
You know, the thing is,
an overflow potentially. but you'd have
you
to
know,
have an
I
agreement
fit the
with them.
requirement for my restaurant. I don't, you know, maybe I had a variance for like one or two spots, maybe. I own Century 21, and if you come in the parking lot during the day, no one's there. One or two cars in and out throughout the day. I park there with my construction trailer, which it's convenient for me. I'll take the trailer back home and spack and kill. So,
You know, keep in mind, you could consider, if it comes to this, like a cross easement parking agreement between the two lots.
That's it,
Yeah.
that's-
Oh, if that's what it comes down to, I'll talk to myself and make it happen.
That's kind of what I was implying.
You don't want to be privy to those conversations either.
No, if it would come to the, even though you own both parcels, it
Yeah.
would still have to be an easement.
Before you do that conversation, you have the beer side of the
Yeah.
pizza.
3 different parties, so. No, but if that's a worst case scenario and we have to just do it like that, that's fine. You know, it's actually great the way the building is designed with the egress. If one tenant needed to park where my trailer is and they get a reserved spot, game over. You know,
Who knows?
it's done. What's that?
Who knows?
Exactly. So, you know, I don't have an issue right now with any of the parking on any of those properties. So I think, you know, we could do whatever's needed, easement, you know, if I don't need it, I don't need it, but if I do, we'll figure it out.
It's nice to have options.
Definitely.
Yep.
I move the planning board defer action on this application and direct the applicant to respond to comments in writing of the planning board and those received from town departments and agencies included but not limited to the following 1 through 9.
Second, moved and seconded, called to question, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
I don't want to overstay my welcome, but just, we did have some architectural, just to give you an idea, this has been advanced. So this would be the east elevation or the Main Street elevation. I think Dan has some colored renderings to show you. They were kind of advanced over the last time. This would kind of be the south elevation. This is the area that Andy was interested in. This is the door that's at the southeast corner. And this would be an apartment in the back. And then this would be the west elevation, which would face the parking lot. You can see the 3 access doors. We've kind of improved the windows and the visibility. If you've been in that building, that back building is a dungeon. But this brightens it up. And then this would be a little blow up of that area because there is a high roof section. So it has some articulation to it. And then the side on the restaurant side in that length is going to be rather plain vanilla and bland, but it will be dressed up. So that's where we're heading, and that would be, the architectural plans are almost complete, so.
Okay, thanks, John.
And then just to clarify, you know, this is where that raised little bed landscaping would be. So in front of the door, there'd be a little bit of pavers or a concrete pad, I'm not sure yet. And then it'd be like a little L going in, and that's where my basil will be grown.
Yeah, I like the concept of growing for your.
What's that?
I like the concept of growing for the restaurant there.
Definitely. Well, I do it right now. I put it in like pots around the building, but it's just a pain.
Yep.
Go 10 spots and water it and whatnot. So I just want to make it easier on myself too, and make it pretty. So that's it.
Okay, so just to be complete, and I will, before Kristen hollers at me again, which she's famous for doing. We are going to approach the ZBA in November, and that hopefully will get us back in front of you for December, this time with a proper public hearing notice, and hopefully perhaps even far enough so that we get a conditional approval.
All right.
Thank you.
Take care, John.
All right, thank you all.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, next up is Faith Assembly at Casper Kill. Knew Chris was hanging around for some reason. Not just to watch.
Just going to share my screen. Good evening, Christopher Lapine with Labella Associates.
My name is Pastor Sam Edwards, lead pastor of Faith Assembly.
Pastor Dave Markajon, Faith Assembly.
I'm Kevin Marinan from Casperkill.
Hey, Kevin.
Hi.
Been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while.
So Faith Assembly of God and Casperkill 1 LLC are co-applicants in a lot line change, which would provide for an additional land acreage of 2.7 acres to be dedicated from Faith Assembly of God to the Casperkill Country Club course. Faith Assembly of God is also seeking a site plan approval for modifications to their existing on-site parking in an effort to bring parking closer to its sanctuary space. In exchange for constructing these spaces, the 2.7 acres will be transferred over to the Casperkill Golf Club. Faith Assembly of God currently occupies 26.75 acres of land, which will be reduced to 24.05 acres following the lot line change. The golf course is currently on 345.4 acres of land, which following the lot line change would be increased to 348.1 acres of land. The parking as it's currently exists at the Faith Assembly of God Church is approximately 339 spaces on this property. It's staggered to the north, west, and southern portion of the property. The issue is the sanctuary is on the northeast section of the property where there is no existing parking. So the effort here is to relocate approximately 165 spaces which lie within this front parking lot of Faith Assembly of God. Those spaces would be relocated to the next sheet here. Would be relocated here to the northwest, and it would come in 3 different pods. There would be 115 spaces in this location here. Beneath that would be 26 spaces, which would be a one-way in and out. And then slightly to the east of that would be an additional 24 spaces. The existing access drive in this location kind of fluctuates in width between 12 and 16 feet. It'll be increased to a standard 20 feet as requested by the fire department for full circulation around the building. The remaining area in the front where the existing pavement was previously for the parking would be removed. The area would be topsoil seeded and grass established. The existing parking area will be reconfigured and restriped as shown on our site plan and will result in 93 spaces now in the front of the property. The other opportunity that this provides in terms of not only moving it closer to the sanctuary, it also gives them some ADA accessible aisles directly to the sanctuary that they currently don't have at this point in time. This area surrounding the parking lot will also receive new LED lights, which we provided a photometric plan for. in our site plan package. Because of the proximity to the, there's an existing dwelling that's immediately to the northeast of us. There's a proposal to vegetate that with some mature white spruce trees immediately during the course of this construction. There's also 2 other red maples that are proposed adjacent to the 24 parking spaces. We think this is a pretty straightforward project. The runoff from the site currently flows to the south onto the adjoining Casper Hill property. The intent is that it'll continue to flow, sheet flow onto the adjoining property. With some relocation and efficiency in the terms of how we've identified the parking at this point, we've been able to reduce the on-site impervious by 0.22 acres, which will establish an additional 0.22 acres of a lawn area as a result of this project. There is a small section of the site that borders that of Casper Hill that was identified as archaeosensitive. We've since had some communications with Chippo. We've sent them a copy of our plans, and they agreed that there's going to be no impact associated with this project because it's a previously disturbed area. At this time, we would open it up to the board to field any questions you may have. Our goal this evening is to at least agree to have this circulated for lead agency.
Yep. All right, thanks, Chris. Yeah, it was always a bit of a hike walking up from that bottom parking lot, so many times over the years. Let's go to Kristen.
Okay, so the application is on this evening for seeker review for an unlisted action subject to a coordinated review. So staff is recommending that the planning board circulate its intent to be lead agency at this time. It's also on for a lot line revision review and amended site plan review. Most of my comments as they relate to lot line are just code references, which I know, Chris, you're well aware of. And then I also just have some site plan review related comments. I think it's really just primarily cleaning up the plan. I appreciate your working with the building and fire departments. So we'll get the plans so that everyone is happy in terms of parking spaces, widths, access aisles, all of that. So at this time, again, just staff prepared a resolution for seeker lead agency intent for the board and is recommending deferring action with comments this evening. And Chris, you did note the SHPO correspondence or communication consultation. So if you could just get us a letter, if you already have one, if you could just provide it with the next submission, I'd appreciate that for the project record.
I have it with me this evening if you'd like me to give it to Rachel at the conclusion of this.
Sure, yeah, do that. If Rachel's willing to accept it.
I think that'll be fine.
Thank you, Rachel.
All right, thanks, Kristen.
Asked her if you can give her an extra blessing for accepting.
There's definitely some topography issues on this site, so, Andy?
Yeah, yes, thank you. Yeah, topography issues. Appreciate all. There's a lot of grading going on here. I appreciate what Chris had to do with this. So, you know, obviously that raises issues with erosion and sediment control. We have some comments about that. Last I checked, you're over an acre, so I think you need a SWIP.
Correct.
I assume it'll be redevelopment, so that'll help with your calculations. I don't think I need to get into a lot of the details here. I had some comments about ADA access, and honestly, it's been a while, so I have to kind of refresh my memory. So I think that's all I really have to say.
Just
right
so
now.
you're aware, the existing access in the rear obviously is not ADA accessible, which you're very familiar with, and our intent is to remove that access and reinstall an accessible access there that meets all the slope requirements.
Okay.
We're no greater than 5% along any walkway,
Right.
and in front of the building, we're less than 2%.
Okay, yeah, one of the comments I had was about those spaces in the back, and if that's the closest spot to the entrance, is that Is that the case?
Yeah, it's the closest space. It also works from the topography standpoint, because as you move to the east, it's a little bit more challenging, that we're trying to catch grade. So those are the areas where we can get 2% or less parking. Otherwise, we're 3 to 5% in the other parking areas, which isn't ideal for ADA accessibility.
Okay. That's it.
All right,
Thank you.
seems like you've thought through some of this already, so. Okay, let's go around the board for comments. Peter?
I think most of the questions here will be answered by the SWIP, so we'll see.
Yeah, it's a big grading thing. Ben?
Nothing.
Nicole?
No, I have no.
Steve?
No.
And Joan?
No, I have no comment.
Guess that's it. And you get a little more land to work with?
Oh, yeah. Just what we need.
Just what you need.
I have one question, can I just say?
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just noticing that, and I'm looking for the answer, but I don't see it. In the 3 parking areas that you're going to be constructing, the third one, the one further south, for anyone parking there, what's the intention for them to walk up to the site? Is it to just walk up on the street?
It's the intent is to walk alongside the access drive.
Alongside the access drive.
And then they can walk to the lower parking lot and through the crosswalk to the upper parking lot, and then to the west into the.
Okay. All right.
The reality, I think we might have discussed this a little bit at the pre-application meeting. They currently have 339 spaces on the site.
Yep.
They're not all used, and these spaces down here are most likely they're going to be built, but maybe not occupied. But the 339 was a requirement of the approval from 2015 or 14 or sometime. So we're trying to mimic that.
Yep.
I have a question. For the road that you take to get down to the golf course, that's plenty wide for cars going in both directions, right?
Yes,
now that there's going to be more volume there.
And a ladder truck.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, John. And you mentioned the new lighting and stuff with the house there. The screening is important. And,
yes.
And 3,000 Kelvin we're trying to stick to.
Yeah, and let's remember with the lighting in the adjoining property, the slope traverses upward.
Okay.
So,
okay. Yeah, I didn't look at the topography there, but that's good to know. By the old tennis court there.
Correct. The old tennis court will be removed. You're probably familiar, there are some pods back there. They're going to be removed, storage pods. There's a couple of dilapidated sheds that are going to come down, either by us or by the winter snow.
Looks good. The only other question I had is, do you have any plans for the old pools yet?
Yeah, we're thinking about it. Certainly have some things.
Used to have a great diving board there.
Yes.
You could clean them up and then do summer camp.
Yeah, no, we definitely want to do summer camp, and yeah, it's a great space. So
Yeah.
we're dreaming a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It probably needs some work, I'm sure. All right. Thanks, sir.
Okay. I move the planning board declare its intent to be lead agency to coordinate the environmental review of the proposed project as an unlisted action, and authorize the planning department circulation of a notice of said intent, a copy of the EAF, and a copy of the application to the identified interest and involved agencies.
Second.
Moved and seconded for lead agency. Called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
I move the planning board defer action on this application pending establishment of lead agency, direct the applicant to respond to comments in writing in the planning board and those received to town departments and agencies included but not limited to the following 1 through 10.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Let's see you next time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Yep, have a good night.
Good luck.
I'm going to sign off, everyone. That was my last agenda item. So have a
Okay.
good evening.
Night, Lisa.
Thanks, Lisa.
All right, Lisa, thank you.
Next up is Saddle Palermo lot line revision. Who's on here for representing?
Yeah. It's coming up.
Oh, there we go. In the room here. Sorry.
Good evening, I don't know which mic I'm supposed to be using.
Whichever one.
Good evening, everyone. Joseph Chamati. I'm here on behalf of the Soto Palermo lot line. We're just seeking conditional approval this evening, as most of the items have been completed. Just a couple of small paperwork items that need to be addressed and submitted.
All right, it looks pretty straightforward. Get the fence onto the right property.
That's it.
All right, Kristen? Anything for you?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's relatively straightforward. I would like to just point out that the planning board did receive, just in case you didn't see my email earlier this week, a revised recommendation for this application. Just due to some sensitivity with the applicant, there's a sense of urgency present. So what I did was I revised the application to include an adoption of a resolution for conditional lot line revision approval, and also built in the maximum time permitted by our town code for such approval. And so that resolution is now available to you in this revised recommendation memo. If for some reason the planning board didn't feel comfortable doing so, you could defer action with comments this evening. I will point out that the items that do remain, we've certainly taken the step with what's outstanding with other applications. So that's it.
Thank you, Kristen.
All right. Yep, this is pretty straightforward. I don't think you have any comments on it.
No, we're just looking for a few deed descriptions. That's it. Nothing else.
All right. Let's go around the board quick. Kristen, Nicole?
I don't have any comments.
No comment.
Steve? Joan?
No comments.
Ben? Nothing. Peter? Nope, nothing from me either. It looks like good to clean this up.
Okay.
So move ahead.
I move the planning board determine that the proposal meets the criteria for seeker type 2 action pursuant to seeker part 617.5 C16, and no further environmental review is required.
Second.
Moved and seconded for seeker. Called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
I move the planning board grant conditional lot line revision approval and also grant a one-time 60-day time extension as permitted by town code of said approval from Monday, December 19, 2022 forward to Friday, February 17, 2023, subject to the following 1 through 6.
Second.
Moved and seconded to grant conditional. Called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Okay.
Thank you for granting my boring application.
Thanks for hanging around for a while.
Take care.
Some of these
Bye.
meetings go long.
It's okay.
All right. Next up, Hudson Heritage. I see Marty ready to go here.
Speaking of hanging around, good evening.
Yeah.
Marty Berger for EFG Saber Heritage SCLLC, and I also have Sue Burke with us this evening. The reason we're here this evening is to review with the board a couple of minor modifications to a few of the buildings being constructed at Hudson Heritage, which really emanate from the fact that when we first obtained approval for the buildings, we did not have tenants, and now we have tenants. So there are some small tweaks in regard to the storefront and storefront locations and doors. And Susan will walk us through that. And the second reason we're here this evening is to further the food court area, which is in front of the CVS drive-through. We received approval for the food truck area and the art wall, and it was a concept approval, and now we are ready to build it. We'd like to proceed right away. In fact, we ordered the benches, etc., and we would like to share with you the specifics of the plans that we intend to build, which are in furtherance of the approvals that were obtained. So. If you'd like, I can first walk you through the area D, which is the food court area, and I can show you that to you. And then Sue can walk you through the specific minor changes in buildings, which, as I said, are associated or caused by the fact that we have retailers now with specific needs as compared to before.
Sounds good. Just go ahead.
Okay, so I'm going to try to share with you my screen. That's not it. Let's see this. Okay, do you see the area, the art wall area?
We've got it. Thanks.
Okay, so this, the concept that we had here was to create an area of entertainment, sitting, enjoyment, and also one that would block the view of the CVS drive-through. If you recall, the CVS drive-through is immediate west of this. This area is in the middle of our town center, if you will, with retail stores on the left and the right-hand side. And the thought was to create an area that we could, customers, pedestrians, visitors can sit, enjoy, that we can have from time to time a food truck or other sports form of entertainment, etc. So at the end of the day, given all of the specifics, we kind of came up with this. And I'll go through a lot of the specific hardline plans, and I'll show you some examples. But we were able to locate from a local source these beautiful benches, which are stone and granite, which I'll show you, which we have purchased and available on site. So we intend to use these benches, which I'll show you, which are from the area. They're consistent with the stone and materials of Hudson Valley, as well as the site. And not only will we use them in this area, which is we call the Block M, a design area, but we'll also use them throughout the site, up and down Winslow Gate Road. In general, we have an art wall, which is framed by a brick, which will be reused brick from the north wings, etc., with precast on top and columns to the left and right. There'll be areas which will be gravel with picnic tables and entertainment and other functions, which I'll get into, as well as the food truck area. Obviously, the sidewalk bends in. There's area for cars to park as well. So if I go back to the drawing, the hardline drawing, I hope that your screen is moving with me. Let me just see where I am. Okay.
Here we go.
Okay, so now let me just find my mouse. Pardon me. My mouse is floating from screen to screen. Okay, here we go. So conceptually what we've done is we created on the left end and the right end a seating area with benches surrounding a tree well. We have on the left side and the right side areas which are gravel surfaces. On the left-hand side, we have gaming areas such as ping pong, cornhole, etc. On the right-hand side, we have picnic tables, and in the middle, we have an area for the food truck. Behind it, we have the art wall, which we'll get into as well. And over the left side and over the right side, we have string lighting.
Just on a quick clarification, the concept plan had a gate through there for the food trucks to go through from the CVS lot. So as you're proposing now, there's no more gate, right? It's just a...
I don't remember if there was a gate that goes through there. It was always, I don't know if it was a gate that went through in order for the food truck to enter that area. Right now, we're proposing it as a mountable curb in the front.
Yep, okay.
On the next page is really some precedents, and you'll see on the left-hand side the idea of having chess tables on gravel. On the right-hand side, Adirondack chairs, picnic tables on the left, cornhole. So this is a kind of look and feel and inspirational photos, if you will, that we are started with. Probably on the top left, you'll see the food tables, the picnic areas with the string lights that we intend to do here. We'll have some outdoor ping pong tables and other entertainment tables. Probably not concrete, but something that can weather the storm, weather the weather, and be available. art wall, not quite like the one on the right-hand side, which is a little dramatic, but we have an art wall area, and the thought is to discuss with Marist College to see if we can do some sort of program where we have local artists from time to time change the art wall and the image on it.
Oh, that's a good idea.
What I'm showing you now are the actual benches that we've located from a source not too far away. They're basically granite, and they're 6 feet long. Some are longer, some are 7.5 feet long, some are 8 feet long. But they're really interesting, they're local, and we thought that rather than purchase benches or purchase, traditional hardware, it would be a whole lot more beautiful to have local stone from the area. So the benches, which I'll show you in a minute again, where they're located, would be this kind of stone benches. The art wall itself would be an art area encased surrounded by brick on all 4 sides with a precast capping on the top. And the concept is that it would be changed from time to time. We would be able to engage the community and local artists and select winners and have them come from time to time and paint the art wall and show exhibits in that area. And this is the intention of this wall is that it's 6 feet tall. Again, it'll block the drive-through of CVS behind it.
Yep.
If you take all of this together, it kind of looks and feels like this. Where on the ends you have these planted areas with these benches on both ends. You have the art wall, which frames the area. You have the left-hand side, which has picnic tables and outdoor seating. The area in the middle, which is available for food trucks or other forms of entertainment. And then gaming on the right-hand side. Landscaping, of course, in front and around, and lighting on top of it. Here's just another perspective with faceless people. And again, another perspective as well.
And the only comment I would make is that, I've been to a couple of events recently, and they always have 2 food trucks, so.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
They always seem to have 2 food trucks when I go to events, just so everybody has an option. So I don't know if you have room in there for that, that's something to consider.
Yeah, we can fit 2 food trucks. We can fit 4 barbecue areas. It's kind of flexible.
Okay.
We have a fair amount of food on site. So we're somewhat sensitive to the amount of food we have.
That's true.
We have the room and the area for 2 food trucks or 4 barbecue areas, etc. But it can also be used as a bandstand or other forms of entertainment as well.
Oh, just as an aside, I don't know what all tenants you're getting, but I've had a few people come up to me and say, "Are we getting a Chick-fil-A?"
Yeah, well, we would love to get a Chick-fil-A, but it's just not happening.
All right, just an aside. But this all looks good. What do you guys say, Board? Any comments? I like the center trees on each end. That'll be a nice focal point.
Carl, I'm just going to suggest staff didn't have much to say, but there's a couple of thoughts for the board to consider for discussion.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the only other one is, since the time this was written, a couple people had pointed out that there's some differences between this and the site plan. So I'm just going to suggest that the board include whatever changes it agrees to tonight be incorporated into the amended site plan.
Yeah,
Because that hasn't been signed yet. That's still subject to review.
Yeah, I mean, this is just flushing out more details.
Yeah.
So where we are, if I may, Chairman, what we would like to do is what we had originally was an approval for something similar to this. We had the architects create this as a function of the existing conditions on the site. For example, there's a gas line that runs through this area that we had to work around. We had some grade changes between Winslow and the CVS drive-through that we had to work around. On the north end and the south end of the wall, the art wall, we had to deal with some existing conditions. And then we really fell in love, quite honestly, with these benches that we found, and we wanted to try to fit them in. So what you're looking at now is a culmination of all the existing conditions combined with what we believe we can do. We also wanted to use the existing brick to the extent possible. So if we're good with what you're seeing here, what we would then do is we would make whatever tweaks we need to the site plan as an amendment, and we would create the construction drawings for everything you see here, and then proceed to implement it. Our timing is that Smoothie King and some of the other retailers on Winslow Gate Road are looking to open before year end. So we are prepared and trying to implement this and get it done as quickly as possible.
All right. Any further comments from board members? Well, I move we accept these changes as presented.
Second.
As I was going to say, as well as updating amending the site plans accordingly.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Well, thank you.
Move on to
Next, I'll turn it over to Sue, and Sue, you can take the screen if you'd like. As I said, we have some minor changes to Building L and Building D, emanating from the fact that we now have retailers. Sue, I can start, or you can start, but I think it would be best to start with the renderings and then work toward back to plans. Sue, do you want to take over the screen share?
Yes, please.
Let me see if I can stop it. Are you good to go?
I believe so. Can everybody see my screen now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Good evening. Thank you for taking the time to hear us. So this is Building L. These changes are very minor. Originally, Building L was planned to be 3 tenants. As you can see, 3 large spaces. We have found tenants that, we're finding that tenants prefer smaller spaces. So we have a lease signed with Supercut, and we have some pending leases for some of these smaller spaces. So what we needed to do was add doors and storefronts. So we have these before and after. They speak for themselves fairly clearly. You have windows here that then were turned to doors.
Yep.
Rather, this right here is slated to be an AT&T store. So the reason that this is bubbled is because they requested a blue awning. Moving forward, let's see, this would be the...
Oh, there we go.
This would be the east side of the building.
Oh,
This would be the west side of the building. So here, you have the same tenant here, where we are changing to window to a door. And here is the AT&T awning on the other side, which is changed to blue. We have another tenant at this end of the building, where we are changing the utility room door, which we had to relocate, to a glass door. I don't know if you can see it.
Yep.
It's hard to see, but it does change from a metal door to a glass door. That's pretty much the concept, where we're changing, you can see here, we had to change this area from EFIS to a door to accommodate. So we're going from 3 tenants to 5 tenants.
Okay.
Simply adding doors that we need. Here you have before, and here you have after.
Yep, removing that drive-through pickup window that you don't have anymore.
No drive-through here.
Right.
We eliminated that
Yep.
several site plans ago. So these are simple changes just to accommodate more tenants in the building. That's building L. And again, the only other change is the blue the green awning to blue. So that's building L.
All right.
And we have building D, which is similar, where we had a water room here, which we've eliminated and moved to over here. Right, where's the water room? It's not shown on this plan. So what we did was we eliminated the utility room door, and we've made it a glass door. And the perspectives are hard to see. So what we've done is just taken, here's your utility room door and add the glass door. So we've just added tenants, and there's another perspective of it.
Yep.
So we're just adding tenants because we're finding that the desire for spaces is smaller spaces rather than larger spaces. Don't change the material.
Pardon me, I don't know if it would be, I think that it might be wise. May I show you a couple of the existing pictures? I think that you might really be enamored with what's going on. If you haven't been there in a while, Susan, let me share some of my screen if you don't mind.
Yeah, you just, Susan's gonna have to stop sharing. Right, there you go.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, it looks pretty straightforward to
Okay.
add the extra doors.
Do you see the existing, the pictures I'm showing?
Yep.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm sure you haven't been there in a while, but I think it'd be worthwhile for me to show you some of the existing conditions. So the buildings are really turning out beautiful, more expensive than, they're probably the most expensive buildings you can possibly build because of the different materials, so on and so forth. But really what Sue's talking about is the fact that when we designed the buildings, we didn't know that this tenant would have a door here, or door here, or door here. So kind of the modifications are to reflect the needs of a specific tenant. So this is one of the existing building. You can see it's pretty nice looking. It has all sorts of architectural details. It'll have exterior signage, and it'll have awnings, etc. There'll be railings and outdoor seating areas. This is one of the buildings that's getting ready for occupancy. This is another building. This building will have an outdoor area and courtyard in front of it, but again, it's a combination of stone and brick and pilasters and ephes, and again, it's pretty nice looking. And the type of detail that Susan's talking about is that this tenant has a door here. In the previous plan, it might have been 6 feet over, and so on and so forth. But this is what at the end of the day we're asking you to approve, the difference between perhaps a storefront with that's four panels of glass versus 3 panels of glass, a utility room that's in one location versus another. That's the second building. This is a third building. This happens to be the Smoothie King. Oh, pardon me. Sorry. Sorry, I lost you.
There it is.
Generally, most of these changes were doors or windows that were replaced with storefronts. There really is no, yeah.
Here's another building. This change might have been pertaining to where the roof line meets the parapet. There must have been, probably was a little small condition there that they needed to meet. Here's one of the other buildings. So each of these buildings, now that we have retailers, there might be a shift of a door to the left, shift of a door for the right. We do them as field changes. We review them, get them approved by the building department. But ultimately, because they're different than what was originally approved, we're coming back to you at this point in time for your approval.
Yeah.
So if you'd like, Sue can walk you through more of the particulars, but that's basically the gist of what we're here for.
Yeah, I think you covered it, and we have all the plans in our packets as well. Anybody have any comments from board members on the changes?
No, they look good.
No.
I just happened to notice
Eric
now
had
that
something, yeah.
board, when the board did architectural, or maybe it was site plan review of these, they'd specified that the utilities should all be screened. And there are two elevations, there's one elevation of each building where it looks like the landscaping is moving for the new doorway or the new window that exposes the gas meters. So I wonder, can you, it's hard to tell in the renderings, it would be more evident maybe in the site plan. Can you maybe shift things around so that you could do the new doorways and windows and still screen, either still screen the utilities or get the board's okay not to?
Well, if I may, all the utilities are inside the building with the exception of the electric boxes, which A, are where they are, and B, have very specific rules and regulations that do not permit us to put planting within a certain amount of area of it. We try our best to cover those, but Central Hudson has requirements that limit the proximity of plantings to the boxes.
So the gas and water meters are interior then?
No, they're not.
Correct.
The gas,
Yeah.
that came up on another building, which ended up with a notation made on the plan that all utilities shall be screened. And then they did, in fact, they added a planter, I think over, I forget which building it was, maybe it was Starbucks or something, to screen the gas meters, because the gas meters had been installed, I don't know if it was where they were planned or someplace else for construction reasons, and then they had to put some plantings in front of it. So that's what the notes are now, and if the board's okay with letting that go, then okay. If not, then just let the applicant know so we can do it either way.
Yeah, I mean, I'd prefer to see them screened if they are external.
So, if you look at building D perspective 4 before and after, you can see where the gas manifold is now screened by a planter area.
Okay.
Everything has been adjusted to be screened as necessary.
Okay, so as long as we, in the
I
end,
can
then,
reshare my screen and show you what I'm talking about if you'd like.
Sure, just to make sure.
Actually, maybe you should look at building L perspective 3. I can see building
Or you
D
can
perspective,
look-
the building D one it's ambiguous. Building L looks like it might, and I can't tell from these, but building L perspective 3.
Three after.
So here, where we've shifted it slightly to accommodate that door. See here, there's no door, and we shift it slightly to the north to accommodate the screening of the gas manifold.
right. It looks like you covered it there. Maybe the simplest way to just address this would be, just as part of the approval, just note that in all cases, any of these external meters, need to be screened.
Right,
And
they have the screening wall with some.
the screening wall looks
plants in
great
front.
when it's
Yeah,
there,
yeah, it looks
as
good.
long as it's in the right spot in the end, that's really what we are
Right.
looking for. And as long as, it sounds like that's what your intention is, so
Yep.
as long as that's the way it ends up, we're good.
Yeah.
All right, sounds good.
So if I can impose upon you, I have one more subject. Sue, if you can stop your share. Okay. I'm kind of going in uncharted waters here because maybe Eric can help me. But we had a need to relocate the mailbox, and I thought that since I had everybody here, perhaps we could knock this out. Eric, if I can possibly ask you to help me. I believe the mailbox was approved in this location, and I believe, Eric, that we're planning on moving it to the left. Maybe you can guide us here. And the reason for the relocation is that the right-hand side, Kyle did not realize that it required a retaining wall to be built, which is problematic for a couple of reasons. So we thought that the mailbox would be better off on the left-hand side. I don't know all the specifics, but maybe Eric, you could chime in.
I actually was looking at that and I didn't have time to get through it all and email Kyle before this meeting. And so I brought it up with me, hoping to finish looking at it while the board was looking at other things. So I have it here. We were dealing with it as a field change. I don't think it's, I don't think it's a big deal. And I was just gonna, I think I was gonna ask Kyle for a couple follow-ups about what's gonna remain where it had been approved, because there are some changes there that are described but not shown. At the new location,
All right, well,
no
thanks.
big deal.
If it's on the radar, our plan is to get Winslow Gate completed and open by the end of the year.
Yeah, I received it Monday afternoon and I was trying to get a response finished today.
I don't mean to put you on the spot. I just was asked by my guys to see if I could push this along, so I really don't know anything about it, but I'll leave it to you.
Yeah, that seems like
It's in progress, and it's a field
So
change.
it's being looked at.
not
Okay, good. Anybody else have any final comments on the architecture? In that case, I move we accept architectures as presented for building L and for building D.
Second.
With the caveat that the gas meters are screened.
Second.
Utilities.
Utility.
Utilities, I should say. Second.
Great, thank you. Before we hang up, Carl,
well, I gotta take
is there
the vote.
anything else that you would like to ask us about status of anything, or?
Oh, hang on, I gotta finish this vote.
Sorry.
Called to question, it's been moved and seconded for architecture. Called to question, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. No, I guess not. It all looks like it's going pretty well up there. Any other board members have?
No, it looks good. I was there on
Questions?
Saturday. It looks really good.
Yep, the new ShopRite is pretty good there. All right, I think we're done then.
All right, well, thank you very much. Appreciate the
Good luck.
time.
Thank
Good luck,
you.
Marty, and take
Bye.
care. Hey, last up is time extension for Eastdale Village. Oh my goodness, Jeff's still.
We're not taking a presentation, Jeff. No. No.
I thought I could follow Marty and ask for approval for the next, over here for a time extension.
Good luck with that. You want to go ahead and do that?
Sure. I move that the planning board for the Eastdale Village project grant a waiver of a special use permit requirement of 210-152.1J, that construction is to be started within 1 year of the planning board approval of a special use permit for a daycare facility and for a multi-family dwelling and mixed residential and non-residential uses within multi-story structures, and extend the latest start date for construction and such SUP uses in the project to July 31st, 2025.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
I move that the planning board for the Eastdale Village project grant a waiver of the site plan requirement of 210-151J. That site plan approval shall be void if construction is not started within 1 year of the date of the planning board approval and completed within 2 years of the date of such approval, that the planning board extend the latest start date for construction to July 31st, 2025, and the completion date to July 31st, 2026.
Second.
Moved and seconded again. Called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. I saw out there, yeah, you get the connection to Darrell Place all paved now. And when do you think that will be opening up?
Yes, it's all paved. Still finishing some of the outdoor work around the two townhouses, buildings 14 and 15 at the bottom of the Connector Road.
Okay.
So it'll be sometime, this fall, winter, then we'll be able to safely open that up for people to get out there. So we're very close.
Sounds good. Any other update on construction or?
No, things
Fair to say?
are moving along, and you know, it's really been quite the process here. So it's all good.
Yep, always a lot of activity out there when I pass through, so that's good. All right,
And
thanks for.
we'll see you next month. We're making a submission
Yeah,
on Mondays.
I'm
We
sure.
have another update for you. So.
Yeah, we can't go a month without you, Jeff. All right.
Thank you all.
Thanks for hanging in there. Have a good night.
Good night, Jeff.
Any other business?
Just one item, I meant to ask Pastor Edwards, when they were here, how can you tell the unfaithful at a church drought-ending prayer meeting?
Is this a joke?
They're not carrying an umbrella.
You're funny.
I heard a motion to terminate the meeting. I second it.
Second.
Call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Good
Have a
night.
good night, everyone.
Good night.